Good morning. Time is good, 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 good. Good morning. Hey, good morning. Happy Thursday. So from what I'm hearing, Cassie is already on the stand being cross-examined. Not much I need to say. Ooh, not much I need to say, baby. It says it all. it mind-blowing. The sex slave. She co-signed the slave. I don't know if that was the most shocking part, but that what Oddi been saying, what he said 5 years ago, and folk thought he was crazy. That's gonna lead into that trafficking and RICO, all of that. Because he started talking about drugs, liquid coke on them private planes. And he implementing Trump and dump and yeah. So I'm gonna go on into it. I'm gonna start. Y'all ready? Without further ado, let's go on, let it do what it do.
As far as victims' rights go. So let's just play that. I want to get you to respond to it on the back end. Let's listen to this.
Thank you. Sir, how do you think she did? Powerful testimony today. What was powerful?
This was yesterday.
Just the whole thing was powerful. And she told her truth. I wouldn't want to be having to do that cross-examination. That's for sure.
Are you worried about how she's holding up being pregnant and having to deal with all that stress?
It's always a concern, obviously, given that she's about to give birth, but in the coming weeks. But she's, I'm not going to give a date, but as you can see in court, she's very pregnant. She's about to give birth, but
very pregnant.
She's holding up strong. I mean, having to recount what happened during those 10 years and beyond, and talking about her contemplation of suicide, really just very powerful.
Oh, yeah.
I think really is the part that got, it seemed like she really talked about their love. She really started to break down about how he just wasn't giving her what she needed, and she really felt that they were in love.
I think really just she was numb from the drugs that she was taking and everything that she had gone through, and she realized that
oh, yeah.
she had to tell the truth, and she told the truth.
Rehab,
November 2023,
addiction,
she filed a civil complaint.
emotional and mental. I said that yesterday.
$20 million.
Were you surprised that she said that?
No, that's a fact. And now she's here in court to tell her truth here. So
Again, let's listen to this.
thank you.
Sir, how do you think she did?
Powerful testimony today.
What was powerful part of it?
Just the whole thing was powerful. And she told her truth.
The total truth?
I wouldn't want to be having to do that cross-examination. That's for sure.
Are you worried about how she's holding up being pregnant and having to deal with all that stress?
It's always a concern, obviously, given that she's about to give birth, but in the coming weeks. But she's, I'm not going to give a date, but as you can see in court, she's very pregnant. She's about to give birth, but she's holding up strong. I mean, having to recount what happened during those 10 years and beyond, and talking about her contemplation of suicide, really just very powerful.
What do you think really is the part that got, it seemed like she really talked about their love. She really started to break down about how he just
I
from
love.
the drugs that she was taking and everything that she had gone through, and she realized that she had to tell the truth. And she told the truth in November 2023 when she filed her civil complaint. She revealed that she settled that case for $20 million.
Were you surprised that she said that?
No, that's a fact. And now she's here in court to tell her truth here. So, as I said, I've said before, we have great faith in the jury system. We're going to let the jury decide. Obviously, Mr. Combs' faith, but today was just a powerful day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alex, he looks not that great.
Okay, so there you have it. That's Douglas Wigder, the attorney representing Cassie Ventura. Nima Romani with me still. Nima, your just thoughts. I know there wasn't that much there from her attorney, but Doug Wigder, he means business. He's a big deal, is he not?
He is. He's one of the best plaintiff's lawyers in New York. And maybe it's the former prosecutor and me and current plaintiff's lawyer here in Los Angeles. I might be a little bit biased, but I agree with Doug. It was very powerful testimony. So yesterday we heard really those graphic and salacious facts, the throwing up, the urine, the blood on the bed sheets. And we heard more of that today. We heard that Cassie Ventura was forced to participate in these freak-offs hundreds of times, even when she had UTIs. So many UTIs that even normal antibiotics like Cipro wouldn't work. And then she talked about the illegal drug use to disassociate and how she would like to use ketamine to just, give Combs what he wanted, but not really be there when she was going through the motion of these freak-offs. And then she talked about her prescription drug addiction, how she wanted to walk into traffic and kill herself.
Wow.
And now she's in rehab and going to trauma therapy. So she really broke down today on the stand. She had cried before, but today was, I would say, the most emotional moment when she was talking to her mother about the physical abuse that she suffered. So I agree with Doug, very powerful testimony. But as we've discussed, Andrew, this case is going to come down to cross-examination. The direct examination really doesn't mean a whole lot. We know and we expect Teddy Garagos to come after her pretty aggressively starting tomorrow. And this case may come down entirely to how well Cassie Ventura holds up on cross Thursday and Friday.
So let's talk about that cross and the strategy the defense might take. What will they use from the last 2 days tomorrow, do you think, in the testimony?
I think we'll see some of the things that they raised in opening, that Cassie chose to stay with Combs, and she said that she loved him. I expect to see words of affirmation and loving text messages. She didn't leave, and many abuse victims do not leave. So this is something that the government anticipates. They have an expert witness who's going to testify to this. But this is all going to play into the issue of consent. That Cassie Ventura participated in these freaky sex because she enjoyed it and she loved her partner. That's going to be the argument. The second, of course, is going to be the violence that we talked about. That's going to be a big area of examination tomorrow.
So even if you're one of the 12 jurors who may or may not know that point you just raised, that victims of domestic violence, they don't always leave, they can't leave sometimes. But if you're one of these jurors who might not grapple with that question, how are you to make of that? Do you think some of these jurors might be thinking to themselves, well, why didn't Cassie just leave?
I think that is a fair question and a question that a lot of the jurors will have. A lot of the more conservative jurors, especially female conservative jurors, maybe asking themselves, well, why did you even put yourself in that situation?
Right.
What did you think when you were dating, a rich and famous entertainer, a rapper, a bad boy? Did you think that, it would be a different type of relationship? And they may say, I would never put myself as a juror in that situation. Look, I mean, we've seen this same argument in other cases like Weinstein and cases involving sexual abuse, where people will say, you know what? If you truly did not consent the first time you were raped, why did you go back? It's really because you love the lifestyle. You love the glitz and glamour. You love the individual. Not saying I agree with it, but this is a very compelling argument and the best argument that the defense has in this case. That Cassie consented to all of this. And any violence was because she initiated. So I think that's what Combs is going to argue here through his defense lawyers.
All right, Nima, just last point on this. She said today on the stand, quote, I feared for my career. I feared for my family. It's just embarrassing. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone. You're alluding to the fact, or at least intimating, that those words could kind of be twisted tomorrow, spun, and used against her.
Which is today.
Right?
They can. I mean, she was a relatively successful artist. She testified as she put out 9 of her 10 records. There was certainly some benefit to
No, she did
being
not.
with Combs. I mean, he
put out
was
one.
giving her gifts, and she was enjoying the benefit of being his girlfriend, and going to the awards ceremonies and all the parties that only Sean Combs could be invited to. So I expect the defense to go after her very, very aggressively, use some of her previous inconsistent statements against her, and we're going to see if she holds up. I mean, it's going to be very, very dramatic tomorrow, Andrew. Probably the biggest day of trial so far, and certainly maybe the biggest day of the entire trial will be Thursday.
Y'all ready?
We're going to leave it at that.
Hey, plus size baddie, you ready?
Thanks. And
She already on the trial.
Everyone, so we just wanted to showcase just some of the legal experts weighing in on this case. So we are moments away from cross-examination to be starting. We are learning that Cassie Ventura is back on the witness stand right now, and cross-examination is about to start. So that is coming up here in just moments. She's wearing a tuxedo-style jacket today with a light blouse. Her hair tied back into a ponytail.
Oh, she ready.
Prosecutors complained yesterday that the defense team was not sharing in a timely manner the evidence it intends to present on this morning. Prosecutors alleged that Sean Combs' lawyers sent about 400 pieces of evidence, some of which were in duplicates in the early morning hours. Prosecutors said that this created a serious inefficiency. Defense attorney said the defense was simply trying to flag everything that its team might raise. All right, so folks, we are waiting for this cross-examination about to be beginning in just moments. We heard from the legal experts. We'll hear from some more a little bit later today as well. But again, we'll be giving you these updates day 4. And you heard there that this one could be maybe one of the most important days of the trial. Could be maybe even the most important stretch here in this 8-week or 9-week trial for however long it's going to be. So hi everyone, Mike Pace here. Thanks again for joining us on Live Now. We will be getting you these updates in real time. So thanks again to the viewers for continuing to watch and being part of the special YouTube stream that we are bringing you. The judge began today by talking to lawyers about evidence as final ground rules that are set before the cross-examination.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, Ronnie.
He denied a request by defense lawyers to introduce text communications between Combs and Cassie that would include references to specific sexual acts. Letters were filed with the judge overnight from both sides.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So she is on the stand. I just pulled it back a little bit so that y'all will get it fresh over here, so we just a little bit behind. So that means by the time they go to lunch, we'll be able to get caught right up. You understand what I mean?
And once that does happen, we bring it right out to you.
Right? So, hey, good morning to everybody. Please hit the like button. This is AunTeaFee about them facts, the tea, and the facts. Yesterday, y'all, remember we talked about, I made mention of the mental, emotional, insured. I was positive that she would have had to have gotten some rehab or mental or therapy. She had. She has. She even contemplated removing herself
We'll be waiting for
from
that
Earth.
and bringing you the updates when they do happen all right here on live.
So let's stay tuned. Let's listen to Sippers with our good earth.
Examination
Okay.
of Cassie and Diddy trial day 4. All eyes on Cassie right now. Earlier today, defense and prosecution lawyers were locking horns over what is known as the Rape Shield Law, a rule that dictates which evidence concerning an alleged victim's sexual behavior, in this case Cassie Ventura's, can be admitted when the court is considering sexual misconduct, in this case Sean Combs's. The defense argues that text messages it wants to share about whether Ventura slept with people other than Combs are important to show the defendant's state of mind. While the lawyers' debate has forced on one specific set of messages, the defense wants to introduce similar text conversations throughout its cross-examination and perhaps over the course of the trial as well. And of course, Sean Combs is in.
Meet Sam.
Ooh, that's
Every
good.
day starts with his morning routine. Like many of us, Sam loves.
He is in deep conversation with his lawyers, wearing his typical trial uniform of a sweater, honey-colored, it seems, and white-collared shirt. As his defense,
You like that booty butter?
The benches, federal
Yellow, don't
prosecutors
it?
are all
That
seated,
butter yellow.
conversing and reviewing the papers before them right now. So I'll be working to get you guys these updates all in real time here on Live Now from Fox Worldwide for you, continuing to bring you these big top stories regarding the case right now against Sean Combs here. Sean Combs' lawyer, Anna Estevo, will be leading the defense team's cross-examination of Cassie today. According to her biography on the website of her New York law firm, Estevo is a former federal defender who now represents individuals and businesses in high-stakes, white-collar, and criminal matters, including bank fraud, money laundering, sexual assault, extortion, and more. When clients are prosecuted criminally, Anna develops innovative and cutting-edge legal arguments that consistently result in positive outcomes, including charges being dismissed altogether and, where unavoidable, reduced charges and favorable sentencing outcomes. Her bio does read out there. So we will have, we saw a woman prosecutor yesterday doing most of the questioning to Cassie, and now the defense team, Diddy's defense team, is going to be led by a woman as well. All right, folks, we can now report that cross-examination has officially started. So as soon as these updates continue to get rolling, we'll be updating you all day today on the biggest takeaways. Showing update that lower to reflect that we are underway right now as cross-examination has just started here, folks. All right, so let's get going here with some of the latest updates right now. Cassie is questioning about his feelings towards Combs. Sean Combs' lawyer began Cassie's cross-examination by asking about their relationship. Cassie responded yes to a series of questions.
All day giving you guys
You and Sean Combs were in love for 11 years.
This is a pivotal day.
Diddy's
team is officially struggling. They are putting on a calm face outside, but baby, there is a lot of internal discord. They are blaming everybody but themselves for why Diddy was demolished on the stand. Now today is Cassie's still on the stand. She's expected to be on the stand at least Friday, maybe Monday. Everybody's saying she's going to be done by Friday. I don't believe that for a second. She was direct examined for the last 2 days. I'm not going to lie. Y'all remember from my things I said the first day I thought was garbage. I did speak to a few legal experts, Tyrone Blackburn Esquire, Lisa Bloom. They felt that it was very strategic, and they said, wait for the next day, wait for Wednesday. They're going to go in for the kill. Well, I don't know if I can say that, but they are going to go in for the juggler. Guess what? They actually went in for the juggler. Yesterday, Diddy got flambéed. He got lit up. It was embarrassing to watch. Diddy, a man so cocky, so arrogant, so confident.
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 179 to 126 in just weeks. You know what?
On Tuesday, literally, even it looked like the baby oil bandits and everybody was doing victory laps, thinking they were going to get off. I was even worried. I was like, oh my God, hold on, right? However, they flambéed him on Wednesday. Not only did Cassie give testimony that it was so gripping, so emotional, people walked out of that courtroom feeling sad, feeling hopeless, feeling dirty. They established this wasn't domestic violence. This was something strategic. Diddy never viewed Cassie as a girlfriend or a lover. Her job was to be a glorified sex worker, and behind all the glamour, she was treated like one, and the positions were worse than a $5 hooker, literally doing something strange for a change for a half a Newport and a half spoke Newport and a few sips of strawberry kiwi Snapple. Okay, Cassie's whole role was to be his punching bag. Cassie's whole role was to be his Smex slave. There was no, even when he literally beat her and broke her face open, he forced her to do freak offs. She OD'd, forced her to do freak offs. On top of that, she, from yesterday you heard there were sores in her mouth that made her unable to perform, and he still forced her. She had debilitating pain from UTIs, infections. He still made her perform. He made her do it without protection. He beat her up unprompted. There was no arguments. There was not anything. Anyway, they destroyed him. And the prosecution really bought it. Sorry, guys. This bus won't let me be great. The prosecution really did a good job of showing about how this was a RICO. This was criminal. Another good thing that came up, Jonathan Oddi, name was shown on the screen. He is expected to testify. The sex workers that they showed on screen are expected to testify. Don't forget this weekend, you guys, turn on your likes and notifications and subs. This weekend, I'm going to do a Q&A. I've been in trial 24 hours. If you want to know everything from pettiness, like whose fit was the best, how was everybody acting, I will say that there's a lot of internal strife. I mentioned it yesterday, and I hope Diddy's team, I don't hope they're paying attention, but Diddy's team really did a disservice by having those kids in there. The fact that everybody on Diddy's side was so desensitized to the violence. Again, they're not disputing that the violence happened. They're disputing on whether he is a sex trafficker, but the prosecutions have done the job. Anyway, today, this is going to be the cross-examination. Mark Agnafilio, Tinny Garagos, and many people are sharpening their knives, and they are going to go in on Cassie. Yesterday, there was a huge argument. There was a huge argument with the judge because, as Maureen Comey, she's a prosecutor, she's doing an amazing job, said, you guys are trying to have a trial by ambush. What does that mean? Whenever anything gets admitted into evidence, like I said before, and you guys probably know this, but let me just run it through for the people that don't know. Jurors just can't go in there and say, oh, it's not guilty. Yeah, I think this. Jurors just can't do that. When you do that, you must point to a piece of evidence and say, based on this is why you must show your work. Based off of this evidence, I think A. Based off of this evidence, it leads me to believe B. You must show your work. You just can't go in there and say, it's not guilty. And you're like, what are you talking about? We got videotape. We got the bloody knife. Like, what's going on? So, for things to get admitted into evidence are very, very important. Now, you can show people evidence to impeach, which is to show that they perjured themselves, right? Or you can show witnesses evidence to refresh their memory. However, the jury never gets to see that evidence, okay? Because again, evidence that is admitted for the jury can make or break a trial. Diddy's team was arguing that they are going to put in exhibits. All exhibits were supposed to be put in by April 27th. That was from the judge's order. Diddy's team only gave 4 things. Now that Cassie's testifying, they said, yo, we have other exhibits. So the prosecution was like, no, you don't. They had an intense standoff in court and said, you better give us all the evidence. Maureen's Comey's exact words were, the judge was like, so what do you want, counselor? The lead prosecutor was like, I want all the evidence and I want it now, please. I loved it. I loved it. Anyway, so why is it trial by ambush? Diddy's team thinks that they're going to take evidence and literally give it to the prosecution while they're cross-examining Cassie, and then that will get it snuck and admitted into the jury. Why is that a problem? Because when somebody gives you evidence, you don't just take it for the truth of the matter asserted. You literally must verify. You must look at the context. Then you must go into the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. If you guys don't know, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure are everything has a rule. The way, hey, what's up? Devania Turner. What's up, Devania? How y'all doing? So listen, and you guys, thank you so much for the crowdfunding. You guys know I'm out here spending my own money, doing my own thing. I didn't even have time to get coffee. Yes, I had $2 for a coffee, but I didn't have time to get coffee. But I really appreciate you guys supporting me and helping me make back the, y'all always call me broke. Y'all know mama got bills. Anyway, Mark Gauchi, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, how you doing? So, but anyway, everything is with the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The Federal Rules of Civil Procedure will let you know what evidence can and cannot be admitted. Like, I know you guys keep saying hearsay. What is hearsay? A hearsay is an out-of-court statement taken for the truth of the matter asserted. It was out of court. Oh, and it was heard secondhand. And you're saying it for the truth of the matter asserted. There's all these complicated rules, and it takes time to review evidence and be like, wait, can we exclude this for any reason? Mark Agnifilio thought, according to the prosecutors, that he could do a trial by ambush. They could get, hey, Unique Asha, thank you so much for the super chat. They thought what they could do was literally go
Jonathan
in,
Oddi will be taking the stand against.
The prosecution wouldn't have a time to look over it, and they could get it admitted. This is the way they were going to hijack Cassie. On top of that, they were arguing about text messages that showed
Diddy,
that Cassie might have been spreading love. Diddy. And this is what I don't understand. I know y'all not trying to S-shame someone, but Diddy was the biggest S. Don't forget, Cassie said that Diddy used to sit there, and you know what? Somebody told me on Super Chat that I should look into like the mellow occult stuff, because she would have men finish on Cassie's stomach or inside of her. Oh, hey! Thank you. They were like, okay, it's Megan, like Reagan said, Cassie had to answer all those boring questions to prove she was going to be honest with her later stuff. That's why we could trust her. It's Megan, like Reagan. You got it. And I'm not gonna lie, Tuesday it was very, very boring questions. You know I have to be entertained, but the prosecution actually came through. Legal analysis also told me that Diddy did like an ambush. Diddy's trained. They've been using really dirty tricks. Again, they're not trying to win off of the facts. The facts are you did what you did. They're trying to win off of dirty tricks. Diddy's team on Tuesday actually did an ambush by kicking Alex out of the courtroom, and they said they couldn't refer to the March 18 event, and the March 18 event was the grape of Cassie, okay?
Right.
We're going in right now, you guys. We're walking to the courtroom. I'm going to get off in a second. But in any case, I'm going to sneak out in about an hour and a half and let you know exactly what's going on, right? And I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on. And also, this is my court fit. Got the Capri's one. Anyway, I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on. And I'll talk to you later, but this is going to be huge. They are going to try to destroy Cassie. And now we're going to see where the prosecution really comes forward, really stands out, and really, really pushes back. All right, you guys, I'll talk to y'all later.
Okay. The ex-worker, Jonathan Oddi, will be testifying.
Cassie says yes. The lawyer says your love of Combs explained why it hurt so badly when he lied.
Early T.
Cassie says yes. When he cheated on you. Estevio continues.
Early
yes,
T.
Cassie said.
Hit the like button, please.
Sean Combs' lawyer has begun by questioning Cassie in a gentle tone of voice. It's notable because so many cross-examinations can begin with efforts to unsettle and agitate a witness. Sean Combs' lawyer approach is the opposite right now. So again, we are bringing you these updates all in real time here on Live Now from Fox, continuing to give you the updates as fast as we can get them. We're also learning that Cassie Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, is back at the courthouse today as she faces the cross-examination from Sean Combs' defense team. Ventura met Fine after Combs hired him as a personal trainer. The couple married back in 2019, and Ventura has been testifying while pregnant with their third child.
Versions of the text messages.
Okay,
so
hold on.
often when there's an objection, it's not like, often what you see in a TV trial, there'll be an objection, the attorneys go off to the side, they kind of have to have this sidebar where they discuss why you don't want that to be put in place, why you do. A lot of those conversations happen outside what the jury can hear and really what the public can hear. They come to their decision. Either the judge will say objection sustained, overruled, or the counsel can proceed as they just decided in that sidebar. So that kind of also extends the length of time that some of the stuff says. But the judge largely overruled the prosecution and did allow the defense to kind of establish a broader emotional context throughout those text messages there. So that's just kind of a summary of what went down this morning. And there's a BBC reporting that I thought was interesting that kind of came out. So just to kind of set the scene for us, we are here. It's 11:10, 11:12 on Thursday morning. The Diddy case now in its fourth day.
Let me back it up a little bit, y'all.
So much, S-O-O-O-O-O, which it makes me cry. Her response, "Are you hungry, Pop Pop?" Then in April 2010, so almost a year later, "Going to sleep now so it can be tomorrow faster and you can be home. Love you." Cassie writes that. Combs responds, "Love my baby." One of the interesting things that sort of came out is that a lot of these texts were exchanged before pretty much everyone had an iPhone or an Android. So they're typing these texts on a BlackBerry, for anyone who kind of remembers that. So just kind of detail for you from the inside the courtroom there as they start to get into it. And so if you've been in a court or even watched a trial, as you may have if you're tuning into our live channel here at Fox 5, if you've watched a trial live, you know that sometimes when they introduce text messages like this, it can really take a while, because first you have to enter the string of texts into evidence. Then you give it to the person who's on the witness stand. You may give a copy to the jury themselves, the jurors themselves, and then you kind of read through all the messages. You confirm that you said this, did he say that, you said this. So they're kind of going back and forth. And really that took the better part of this morning until Cassie, who is 8 months pregnant, started to, she said she needed a break. So they gave her a break. That happened about 15 minutes ago. And some of the legal experts who are weighing in on this, kind of in social media and elsewhere, they're kind of saying, look, it looks like some cracks might be showing here. Despite the warmth, the defense revealed some emotional fissures in their correspondence. In 2010, an email, Cassie confronted Combs, saying, "That's not being in a relationship with someone that you love and are in love with. I'm really hurt by the way you deal with me. I don't need your money. I need some attention." So the strategic framing here from the defense is it's kind of a layered approach meant to challenge the prosecution's narrative, showing that there was a mutual loving relationship rather than one that was solely defined by abuse. There was communication, there was acknowledgement. Cassie's willingness to remain in the relationship and her kind of emotional investment in it shows that it doesn't rise to the level of the federal crimes that Cassie's testimony is supposed to help establish as a part of the larger look of this case. And the possibility that their relationship was complicated, surely, without a doubt, without argument. Complicated relationship is maybe the least way you can say that with some of the things that have been testified to, but didn't rise to the level of criminal. Throughout this, as you might expect, the prosecution has kind of objected, and they've objected frequently, especially as the defense introduces some of these different versions of the text messages. So often when there's an objection, it's not like, often what you see in a TV trial. There'll be an objection, the attorneys go off to the side, they kind of have to have this sidebar where they discuss why you don't want that to be put in place, why you do. A lot of those conversations happen outside what the jury can hear and really what the public can hear. They come to their decision, either the judge will say objection sustained, overruled, or the counsel can proceed as they just decided in that sidebar. So that kind of also extends the length of time that some of this stuff says. But the judge largely overruled the prosecution and did allow the defense to kind of establish a broader emotional context throughout those text messages there. So that's just kind of
so they're breaking down the text messages.
What went down this morning. And there's some BBC reporting that I thought was interesting that kind of came out. So just to kind of set the scene for us, we are here. It's 11:10, 11:12 on Thursday morning. The Diddy case now in its fourth day. And it is Cassie who's back on the stand this morning. And BBC actually caught up with Holly Baird, who...
All right, folks, so what we want to do while we wait for some more major updates to come, I want to replay some of my back and forth with Ben Taylor, talking about not only yesterday's dramatic testimony, but what to expect today.
Is Combs' longtime spokesperson. So as family members were entering the court this morning, and Diddy's family is there in unity. His kids, his mom,
before the
they've all
scheduled
attended many
hang,
days of the
and
trial.
it
Even
appeared
as
that the prosecution wanted the defense to start cross-examination. They did not want to, and then the judge asked the defense, just how long do you think you're going to have Cassie on the stand? And they said through the end of this week. So he said, all right, let's wrap today and do it tomorrow. So I want to bring in our next guest here. You know him, Ben Taylor, attorney and a legal analyst. Thanks so much for joining us on Live Now. And Ben, first, before we get into really the meat here of day two, I want to ask you about, do you think it was a strategy by the prosecution to kind of stretch out day and maybe only give them about 35 minutes for this cross-examination if it was going to be allowed by the judge?
Yes, Mike. Basically, the prosecutor knows the time, and they're always looking at the clock in the courtroom. And basically, what you want to do is end strong on a day like this. So today's Wednesday, so they want the jurors to go home hearing strong evidence from one of their main witnesses before cross-examination begins. Because if cross-examination began today, basically what would have happened was is that the defense would have heard and the jurors would have heard from the defense. But that's not what the prosecution wants. The strategy is always to have a strong witness right before the day ends. So that way the jurors are left with the last word from the prosecutor and your strong witness. So that's definitely a strategy that the prosecution did use today.
All right, and then some of the shocking details that came out. Prosecution really trying to get a timeline of alleged abuse by Diddy during the course of their relationship. But it wasn't until the end, about 15 minutes to go until the end of the day, where we found out that Cassie alleged that Diddy raped her in her own home. And then they asked this question, did you have sex with him ever again? And she says yes, voluntarily. And then they say, why did you do that? And she says, I had a good evening with him. So my question to you,
she honest,
wanting to get that out there, they don't want that surprise to happen tomorrow, but how is that going to stick with the jurors in the overnight when they're just thinking about the case today?
It might confuse the jurors a little bit. Victims of sexual assault, they react differently. So it's going to be very confusing, and the prosecution is going to have to explain away why would you claim that you were raped
and then go out with them again and still see him afterwards. So basically, the prosecution is going to have to basically explain why victims act a certain way if they were raped. It's a very delicate subject there. But yes, it might help or hurt. A lot of times, even as a prosecutor, you want to get out some bad evidence out there to show that you're honest, to show that you're not hiding anything, because the defense attorney will definitely use that against her in that way. So that way the prosecution, that's why they put it out there first. That way there is no surprises when the cross-examination of the defense comes tomorrow.
All right, and everyone, of course, will be highly looking at this cross here. And how do you think the defense team is going to approach maybe the first couple of hours with this cross-examination tomorrow?
They're going to definitely be delicate, but definitely hit her hard. She's the alleged victim, so you don't want to go too hard at her because you don't want to seem like you're beating her up. And as we discussed before, she is pregnant, so all that could play a role. However, they're going to cross-examination her basically by saying, you went out with him again, you consented, nobody held you against your will, even though you're up here claiming that he's a bad guy, that he did all this domestic violence against you. However, you kept coming back to him. You kept coming back to him consensually. So consent is going to be very big here. They're going to have to show that she consensually, came to his house and kept dating him on her own volition. Even though there were some wild, acts here going on, even though there's some craziness as far as these, sex acts. However, the defense will definitely need to lay the foundation to show consent. She was a willing participant, and that nobody forced her to do any of this.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Ben, when you make there about the art of the timeline. It could definitely go both ways. We saw the prosecution that set up a timeline today, but on the other end of it, tomorrow the defense can use the timeline, and after every accusation, they can ask her, right? Did you report this? Did you try to run away?
Yes, and so that's where it's going to be.
She did. And he came and got her.
Cross-examination.
With a gun.
Because you have a person
and
right
a
now
goon.
as a prosecution witness saying how bad this person is, how bad Sean Holmes was, everything that she did to him as far as assaulting, as far as you mentioned, today, as far as an alleged rape. However, the defense is going to go up there and look at the jurors and say, Cassidy, you did this willingly, right? Didn't you go back out with him the next day? Didn't you see him the next week? And because Sean Combs lives in Miami, he lives in New York, has homes in LA, weren't you voluntarily, flying out there yourself to visit him? So you're saying all this stuff that's so bad about him, but what made you not just call time out and be done with him? Why do you keep coming back and coming back? And that's where the prosecution is going to have to show how a victim thinks after, in a sexual assault. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the jurors' responses will be, because definitely the defense attorney is definitely going to go after her in a delicate way, because you have to, because this is their main witness, and you have to show that she's inconsistent and that she might even be lying about some of these things.
And when we talk about the delicacy,
she's been pretty honest to me.
Tiptoe at times through these accusations. Could they go, maybe the defense, could they maybe go a little bit harder, not on the person of Cassie or maybe the allegations of Cassie, but maybe can they go after her dwindling career and maybe talk about a timeline of where it seemed like, a lot of people would say in the music industry that she was a one-hit wonder, but she kept on saying during her testimony that she felt if she did out Diddy, that he would ruin her career.
Yes, they're going to try to show her as being money hungry, as a woman who's thirsty for attention, thirsty for being a celebrity, and that she, pretty much attached to Diddy in order to be a celebrity, and is willing to do whatever she could to be a celebrity. And that's going to be kind of the theme here of saying, hey, all you wanted was money, you wanted the fame, you wanted the attention, and you're willing and able to do whatever
it wasn't enough money in the world, baby.
And of course, Diddy went along with it. So that's what they're going to try to play her as. That is a victim here. That is a person who was, allegedly raped or attacked, but as a person who was had willful acts, who wanted fame, who wanted the attention, and wanted money, and try to, make it seem like she's money hungry and that she had other motives here. And that's why she's doing this, for other motives, to get back at Sean Combs for money.
And then at the end here, we did talk about, we did hear from the prosecution asking about the settlement that she received. She put the lawsuit back in 2023, and a day later, it was settled for $20 million. I think we had some questions from our viewers today. They wanted to know, so she signed the settlement papers. How is she able to still talk about this case here? Does a subpoena trump what she signed here with a settlement with Diddy?
Yeah, most likely, most settlements are confidential. So when you enter into a settlement with an individual, a lot of times they're confidential. However, in certain cases, a judge like this in a criminal case can always bring it up and can always allow certain evidence to come forward. So the defense is definitely going to try to use that to their advantage and say, hey, Cassie, you're out for money. You wanted $20 million. You sued him. You did everything, but you still sued him. So they're going to try to, paint her as a person who was out for money, who actually sued him, got a settlement, and now is still going after him even more.
And today we saw the prosecution, they decided not to show the jury video from some of these freak-offs. Instead, they showed some pictures that were taken from the video, some screenshots. Now, can the defense, if they want to, can they show the jury the actual video instead of photos from it? Because as we all know, photos are much different than actual videos, seeing it and playing out.
Yes, so basically it'll be up to the judge. So if the judge allows the videos to be played, then the defense could show the whole video to paint the story. Because a lot of times you do see that. You see maybe the prosecutor and the defense to show a small piece of evidence, just a piece of a picture. But then the other side comes up and says, no, this is the whole picture. Let's play the whole video. That way you can see what people were doing in these videos. You can see where people were standing, where people were sitting. That way you can try to say, hey, look at the video. She's a willing participant. She wasn't held up against her will. And I wouldn't be surprised if the defense feels like it's to their advantage to play it. Yes, they can open the door and play it since it's already been alleged in this case already.
And early on, it just seems like, of course, the prosecution really focused in on that 2016 video because it actually showed violence that Diddy committed to Cassie. Let's just say that video didn't exist and it was never out there. How much harder of a case do you think this would be for the prosecution?
It definitely would be a harder case. I mean, video evidence, jurors love video evidence. Whenever I do a trial, when you have video evidence, that's what the jurors want to see. They want to see what actually happened because Mike, I wasn't there, you weren't there, nobody else was there except, Diddy and, Cassie. But with the video, that brings everybody to be able to see it, what happened that day. So even though you weren't there, you can see what happened. So the video is strong evidence. But without this video, yes, it's a stronger case for Sean Combs because this video makes him look like a madman. Him dragging her down the hallway, he just looks crazy. And even though he might not be guilty of racketeering, however, some jurors might just see this video and say, hey, if he's able to do this craziness to a woman, maybe he's crazy enough to do what he's being charged with by the prosecution. So they still have to prove the case, but this can definitely play in the jurors' heads.
When we say we create personalized hair care products, we mean truly personalized formulas that take into account every little detail.
The defense is going to really lean on women attorneys to do the cross, or do you think it'll be a mixture of women and men? Because we saw just the prosecution, Emily Johnson, a woman, was asking the questions to Cassie.
Yes, if I'm there, in some cases where involving sensitivity like this, sexual assault, you definitely should have a woman cross-examined. So, and Sean Combs does have a woman on his defense team. So I would definitely have her do the cross-examination just because of the sensitive subject matter, the sensitive nature of the topic here. And I think it would come across a little bit more sensitive to the jurors if you have another woman doing the cross-examination. A man can go up there and do a good job. However, they might be seeing like you're mansplaining something away for sexual assault, which you don't want that to happen. You don't want to lose the jurors, because the jurors are the ones who decide the case, and those are the people that you want to like your client, like your evidence, because at the end of the day, the jurors decide whether or not Sean Combs is guilty or not guilty.
I got to ask you this, because I just thought of this, and at this point, I know it's early on in the trial. Tomorrow is only going to be day 4, but for both sides, the prosecution and the defense, do they have members on their team kind of eyeing already some of the jurors to see, okay, you know what, this one looks really favorable to this, or we need to work on this one? Are they already having those conversations, or is that way too early?
No, it's in the very, very beginning of trial when the juror is selected. You're always looking at the jurors, because some jurors are putting their head down. Some jurors have their heads up. Some jurors, when a witness is saying something, may shake their head back and forth like that doesn't make any sense. So you're always paying attention, because the jurors are giving you pieces of like golden nuggets on where you need to go with your case and what you might need to explain further, or where the jury's confused. Because if the jury's confused, you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that the jurors understand. So yes, the attorneys are definitely keying in and watching facial expressions and nonverbal cues of what jurors are doing throughout this trial.
All right, Ben Taylor, cross-examination starting tomorrow, and giving us a great preview of that. We appreciate it as all. All right, folks, I just wanted to add that conversation that we had with Ben yesterday to really set up what we are going to be looking at here for the cross-examination of Cassie that is on the stand right now. Defense continuing to ask the questions. And what I want to do is give you some more updates that are coming in on Live Now from Fox. As Sean Combs' defense team is now confronting Cassie with loving emails and text messages as she and the hip-hop mogul exchanged early on. In one 2008 email, Cassie told Combs she was a lucky woman. "I love you so much," she wrote after Combs thanked her for flying to Atlanta to be with them. In August of 2009, in a message sent when Combs went by the moniker Puffy, the rap star told her, "I love you so much, it makes me cry." Cassie replied, "You hungry, Pop Pop?" She testified that Pop Pop was a nickname she used for Combs, while he sometimes called her baby girl. He said no, to which Cassie told him to let her know if he changed his mind. In April of 2010, Cassie told Combs, "Going to sleep now so it can be tomorrow faster and you can be home. Love you." Combs replied, "Love my baby." We're also being told from court reporters, Combs appears relaxed as cross-examination gets underway. He's sitting back in the chair with his legs crossed, conferring with his legal team, who is seated right next to him. Let's get some other updates here from the court reporters that are inside right now.
Love my baby.
The defense asked Ventura if she kept returning to Combs for 11 years. Ventura clarifies it wasn't coming back. The defense asked if she believed Combs loved her and if his cheating hurt. Ventura confirms belief in his love, says cheating didn't always hurt. The defense tries to show defense exhibit. The prosecution objects, not in evidence. Judge agrees. The defense asked Ventura to read it silently. Then why did she send it? Ventura says to tell Combs she was going to dinner. The defense asked Ventura about the context of the messages. Ventura is unsure. Asked about the relationship, she says it was early and it was in the love. The defense offers exhibit. The prosecution objects, says it's for the truth. Judge overrules. The defense asked Ventura to read a 2009 email saying, "I love you, smiley face. I'll fly anywhere for you. I love you, Cass." Prosecution objects, hearsay. The judge tells the defense to ask more. The defense asks about BG from BlackBerry. Ventura says it's baby girl. defense asked Ventura what she wrote. She says, "You hungry, Pop Pop?" The defense notes Combs wrote, "We are so in love, we don't do anything else." Asked how long they've been together, Ventura says about 2.5 years at that point. So again, that is just some of the takeaways that we are seeing here in this early get-go, where the defense right now is trying to question Cassie and showcase some of these text messages and emails showing a very loving companionship and yearning to see each other the next time that they can be together.
He was out in her head. He was just stringing her along. When we see the video, you will know what is really going on. When you see the video, which video? Kelvin, I hope Diddy gets life without parole. I do too.
Holmes told her
he was all in her head.
So happy that you would fly to Atlanta just to see me, with a number of exclamation points, and called himself a truly lucky man. "I love you, miss you, can't wait to hold you," Combs wrote. Cassie responded, "I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you so much."
She believed everything he said.
To see you. Combs' team has argued that despite the violence that occurred in the relationship, Ventura deeply loved Combs and willingly had sex.
She says she loved him.
Freak off parties to please him. Again, folks, we are
she loved him more than she loved herself.
The latest from the cross-examination. We are seeing more of the legal team that came in from earlier as well. Let me see if I could get more updates here. Let me update my screen here for the court reporters that are giving us the info.
I don't want no pet names. That's Let me say this while we wait. So I don't like pet names.
I haven't talked to you.
Babe, you know they cute, but don't talk to me on the phone or texting with the little cute little puppy names, cause that's generic. You can be saying that to everybody. Say my name. Say my name. He's stringing that girl along. Bless her heart.
In a flashback to another era, testimony
Say my name.
The early relationship between Combs and Cassie has contained frequent references to the BlackBerry devices that they used to communicate with one another. Before Apple founder Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone in 2007, the BlackBerry was so popular and addictive that it was nicknamed the Crackberry. The Canadian company that marketed it was valued at one time at $85 million. At around the time Combs and Cassie began dating. And again, the defense is starting with emails, starting with text messages to describe the relationship and try to showcase a different type of relationship that was presented from the prosecution, and defense trying to show a more loving side to both of them during this decade, more than a decade of companionship. We are worldwide for you as this major cross-examination continues, and we are just getting started for you on day 4 right now, bringing you the updates all in real time and to the best of our ability. When the reporters give us the updates, we bring them right directly to you, just like if you were inside that courtroom. A lot of you have been saying there in the chat how you wish this trial was on camera, and so do we.
Yes, indeed.
Folks worldwide here for you on Live Down from Fox. If you're just joining us, cross-examination has started, and they are just in the early moments of the defense. Not really asking too many questions right now to Cassie, but really having her go over some of the text messages and emails, correspondence that she had with Diddy over the course of 11 years, 10 plus years or so. So they are going through that and showing a really different side than what the prosecution was bringing to the table just yesterday, and what Cassie was talking about, part of their relationship yesterday and the day before. So again, we are rolling here, bringing you all of the updates in real time on Live Now from Fox as we continue to showcase what is going on here in this major cross-examination. As Cassie back on the stand this time, it is in the cross-examination. While we wait for more updates, we will be continuing to showcase some of the legal analysts.
I want to bring in legal
for that. And that could be a little bit more difficult, depending upon what other evidence the prosecution brings in to support the fact that there were other people engaged in this, forcing her to do these things.
Absolutely, and Adante, we're showing some of those sketches that came out of the courtroom today. You can see that the video was also shown in court, that infamous 2016 video, where it was the first time really that the world at a larger scale saw the abuse that Cassie said she was enduring at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs. But of course, we also know that Diddy also made other threats. It came out today, she testified as well, that the fellow music artist KOGOTTI, his car was actually blown up due to his relationship as well with Cassie. How was the defense able to push back against some of these claims of violence, because that has to be shaping his character at this point to what they're hearing of what Diddy is capable of, even if they're not touching directly on some of the things that he's been charged with?
Sure. Given that there's so many different allegations as it relates to which she testifies, for example, blowing up Kid Cudi's car, that's what she says. But the question is, what is there to corroborate it? Now, we know from the testimony and some of the evidence is going to come in that the car was blown up. Was Diddy taking credit for something that he didn't do and was just trying to essentially intimidate and harass her, or take credit for something that he wasn't a part of? Or did he really do it? There's going to have, the prosecution and the government is going to have to present corroborating evidence in order to show that what Cassie is saying is in fact true and not just an allegation. Keep in mind, she had $20 million worth of reasons to come into court and to file a lawsuit, and she received compensation for that. That's also in front of the jury. So her
but she filed the lawsuit before he was brought up on these RICO charges. Her lawsuit
and other witnesses
was settled before the feds
brought that up because, of course,
hit him with it.
It did come out in court today as well that she settled that November 2023 lawsuit that kicked all of this off for $20 million, as you said there. Is she not violating any prior agreements by getting the $20 million by, again, disclosing some of those details of that agreement in court today?
Well, typically, even if there is a non-disparagement clause or a confidentiality clause, which may be a part of a civil case settlement, which essentially puts a gag order on the person from not being able to talk about the settlement or the case, all of that goes to the side if you're under a federal subpoena. You're going to come to court, and oftentimes the way they're drafted, those agreements, it allows a loophole for a person to be able to comply with a subpoena, because that person essentially cannot resist or reject the government's overtures or demand to show up to trial. So I don't think she's going to run afoul of that, especially given she may have already had reason to know that this day would come. She would get a civil payday from her lawsuit, but also need to appear in criminal court in order to essentially confront her abuser.
And as we're talking about this lawsuit, again, this happened back in November of 2023, set off the criminal investigation that now Sean Diddy Combs is in court for. Do you think that the defense, and what was the strategy back then for allowing this lawsuit to come out? Because they had tried to settle beforehand, before this officially became public. Why do you think Diddy's defense team didn't work harder to keep this under wraps? Now, of course, he's sitting in court fighting for his life because he could be facing life in prison.
Right. Well, when the tell-all book comes out, or there's a witness who gives us the details, we'll have a better insight as to what was going on in terms of why they didn't settle Cassie's lawsuit early. However, what I would say is, you know, they may have had when that she was going to proceed with the book that she was talking about and that this was coming down the line. So they might have said, what would be the use of settling the lawsuit if I still have to face the music in criminal court? Nevertheless, if I'm Diddy's lawyer and I'm thinking about, you know, talking to him, and if there's any inkling, if you will, that there's something to corroborate what she's saying, I'm telling him to resolve the case. Why? Not because necessarily the value of what he's having to pay her, the amount, but more so the line of people who are going to be jumping to try to be at the front of the line to also file their lawsuits against him. Be it valuable, be it those lawsuits actually being something that's true, something that's made up in an effort to get a payday. So, and that's what you're seeing going on now. He went from one lawsuit to, I believe, upwards of 40 lawsuits of people claiming abuse and all manner of type of bad conduct. And that essentially opened the door by way of publicizing her lawsuit by not settling it.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see what comes of those other civil lawsuits as well. I want to put this up on your screen. This is from Variety. They're talking about Cassie's
slave worker.
State. So we do know that while the sex trafficking trial reached a dramatic peak today, when Cassie broke down in tears during her final testimony, the last stretch of her questioning by the prosecution focused on the latter part of that 11-year relationship that she shared with Diddy. This is when Cassie then alleges that she was fraught with physical and psychological abuse. The emotion that Cassie is displaying while she's on the stand there, those jurors having a front row seat to that. How is that likely going to impact their decision moving ahead as they're taking in all of this evidence there from the prosecution as well as the defense later on in this trial?
You know, I think it's very difficult to ignore when you see someone who is presenting as being in pain or presenting as being tormented by past actions, misdeeds, and memories, and frankly, maybe nightmares of the things that happened to them. So I could see that being very moving as it relates to its impact on the jury. But we have to remember, in the course of a trial, emotions run high and low, and the momentum changes from day to day, witness to witness, and answer to answer, because she still is yet to be cross-examined by Diddy's team. And from what we understood took place in court, Diddy's legal team let the court know that they have evidence that they intend to use to, what I would imagine, impugn or to undermine Cassie's credibility and the claims she's making. So, you know, it's still TBD, to be determined how the jury will ultimately take what she says once Diddy's legal team has an opportunity to cross-examine her. And I'd imagine, just as she was on the stand for 2 days and some change now, they're going to keep her up there for a while if they're able to make points based upon their cross-examination.
And that's exactly where we're going to go next with this, that cross-examination. What is the approach really going to be? Is there a certain demeanor that the
in more ways than one
have to have there in the courtroom, as they are cross-examining the prosecution's highest profile witness? But Cassie as well is 8.5
in more ways than one.
And we've already seen her break down there on the stand. She's talked about suicidal thoughts due to some of the, as she says, abuse she endured by Diddy. How does the defense approach this so that way they're coming off in a nature that
Jay-Z probably coming up soon?
Is, of course, true in relation to the client, but not too harsh into the relation where it turns the jurors off?
This will have to be a masterful cross-examination. It's going to have to blend a bit of compassion, some contrition in terms of admitting as it relates to some of the things that did happen, which Diddy has already admitted to, the videotape and things like that. But they're still going to have to be steadfast in pressing forward to extract admissions, to extract conflict and things like that in order to show the weaknesses in her testimony and to exploit that for Diddy's gain in the courtroom. But they cannot walk so firm and so hard to where they then become Cassie's current abuser in real time in front of the jury. So it'll have to be a very careful, masterfully crafted cross-examination. And I'd get your popcorn ready, because I'm sure as a defense attorney, this is one of those moments that you've been looking for as it relates to your career. You're on the front stage, you're on the big stage and bright lights, and you have to deliver.
And as well, we also know that present every day at court throughout this entire process, even some of those pre-trial hearings. We've been seeing these images. The family of Sean Diddy Combs, there you have his son Christian, his other sons as well, Justin, also present there, holding hands with their grandmother, or Diddy's mom as well. How does this sort of shake up a juror's opinion on what's going on in this case? They're seeing the family there each and every day, supporting Diddy in that capacity. Does that have an effect ultimately?
I could see it could swing either way, frankly. You know, I've seen that move before where a defendant who's accused of something violent or heinous or something that's very, objected to by society has their family there. And so that's family support. That's important for the defendant. But at the same time, a jury can actually be turned off by that because they're saying, you did all these things. You're listening to this and you have the nerve to have your mother here. You have the nerve to have your kids here listening to what type of monster or animal you are. What type of person are you? So that could turn off a jury. At the same time, you have family there, and it can also soften the way in which a jury looks at a person. As they realize he's not just a monster, or he's not a monster at all. He's a family man. He has kids.
He controlling them too.
Other people who support him, despite all these allegations, despite these rumors, despite this case, despite this relationship. He raised kids that are here and they look good and they're minding their manners. Maybe he's not the person that he's being painted out to be by the government and the government's witnesses.
Lastly, before we take a 2-minute break here, because we've got a lot more to discuss as well. As we started off this interview, we played out some of the remarks that were made from Cassie's lawyer. Why is it that we haven't heard from Diddy's lawyer speaking outside to the media? Of course, everyone is paying attention to this case all around the world, trying to get any inkling of information as to what's happening inside the courtroom. Of course, we got a little bit from Cassie's lawyers today. What is it stopping Diddy's lawyers from making remarks on behalf of their client?
Well, I could totally see Diddy's
lawyers they know he's a monster
to come out front and give a press conference or give remarks to the media by answering questions on the way to their car. Why? Because they could be posed with some very tough questions that they may not want to have to admit. So what does your client say about the video? Why did he do this? Why did he do that? It may cause more problems than necessary, and it may potentially tip their hand as to their strategy as to how they're going to deal with Cassie and the other government witnesses that are sure to come. So they may just be holding their cards to their vest, which might be a shrewd move given the amount of attention on the case and the highly sensitive nature of the testimony that was given today.
Absolutely, and we're just continuing to showcase some of this video footage that we've seen from outside of the courtroom so far this week. There's Diddy's other son, Quincy. They're entering the Sprinter van alongside the mother of his first child, I should say, Misa Hilton, another high-profile individual, all crowding into there to support Diddy. Again, media has been all over this case. No cameras inside of the courtroom. Ultimately, before we step away for a 2-minute break and transition to some of those other topics, Adante, what do you...
All right, again, I just wanted to showcase some of the legal analysts continuing to talk about this.
Thank you, Maurice.
But we are getting some major...
Savor the sweeter things in life with Culver's new concrete mixers and lemon ice coolers made with fruity Skittles popped.
You don't merely own a children's clothing boutique. You're not sorta into dinosaurs. You're not just.
Far that we are learning as the defense continues to talk about the loving correspondence between Diddy and Cassie. I do want to bring this to your attention here on
trauma bonding.
Fox. Okay, this is the big one where the defense asked Ventura to read the message. I haven't talked to you. You rushed me off the phone. I'm hurt. I don't need money. I need attention. The defense asked if Ventura wanted special time with Combs, and she says yes. The defense also notes Ventura said she told Combs, I love you. You make me better, and wrote about wanting a baby. Ventura confirms the messages, admits knowing Combs had 6 kids then. The defense asked Ventura about messages on freak-offs, clarifying if doesn't matter meant weekend or weekday.
She wanted a kid to slow him down from pimping her ass out.
Jules, Ventura agrees that she could. The defense asked Ventura if her messages was explicit about an upcoming freak-off. The prosecution objects. The judge has requested for a recess right now, so they are taking a quick break. We are going to continue our updates here for you on Live Now from Fox as we are getting more details from inside the court here. And again, more takeaways coming in just a little bit.
Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. Let's dive into the details of day 3 of the Diddy trial in New York City. Of course, the music mogul facing these charges of sex trafficking
the music
and racketeering. On the stand today, it was Cassie, his ex-girlfriend. The direct questioning ended. Cross-examination will begin tomorrow. A live picture in there outside of the courthouse and more graphic details. We want to warn our audience before we get into this because they are seriously disturbing in nature. We're going to be joined right now by Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers on the ground there on a rainy day in New York City. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. What's the biggest takeaway? What did we learn today?
Testimony that was given by Cassie Ventura. I was in the courtroom here on the 26th floor in the building you see right behind me, a federal court here in Lower Manhattan, and all the tension was building all day long, hour by hour since early this morning. She's describing the freak-offs, hundreds of freak-offs that she says she had during the course of her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. They were happening almost weekly, lasting 1 to 4 days. They were taking drugs, and she said she developed an opiate addiction because she had to take downers in order to just numb herself afterwards. She was in physical pain. She had physical ailments like UTIs, but was still forced to, in her words, participate in these freak-offs. And then as
and they gave that sex worker herpes
with the freak-offs, and she was seeing very clearly that there was no way she was going to have anything resembling a normal, healthy family-type relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. She started to try to get away from him and to build her own life independently. And then, Andy, she described how he threatened her with exposure of these very, very graphic videos that he had made of these freak-offs if she decided to try to leave him or to try to get away from him. And then there were also many beatings, frequent beatings. They showed in court today the graphic photos of the beatings, you know, the injuries that she sustained from those beatings. And then towards the end of the day, she even said that when she left Combs in 2018, she went to have dinner with him. Afterwards, they went back to her house to kind of finish things off, as she said, in a positive way, a friendly way. She says he allegedly raped her in her living room in her California home. So people, when one of the jurors first went, it was just one thing after another, just one devastating emotional blow. And one juror, when they first saw those images of these freak-offs, which were not made public, which are under seal in the court record, so we can't even request them, was so graphic. She clutched her chest like this, like sighing like that. And then, you know, all of this is happening. Combs on one side, his supporters, his family on one side, her husband, her mother, and other
no
family members.
person just gonna make that type of stuff up if it's not really happening.
Sexual assault, and said that this burden of everything she'd been through and all of these, you know, all of the inner conflict she went through, like, I love him, but I can't stay in this relationship. I can't change it. I can't make it better. I have to get away. And that even in 2023, when she was now married to Alex Fine, who was in the courtroom for her husband, who'd been very protective and supportive of her, they had already had 2 kids by 2023. She said that she turned to him one night. She just felt so burdened by everything that she basically said to him, listen, you can raise these kids on your own. You don't need me. I'm worthless. And then she tried to leave the house to go do self-harm, as she put it. And he stopped her and basically saved her life at that point. And then the final piece of bombshell testimony came when she revealed that she received $20 million to settle that civil suit that started this whole thing in November of 2023, Andy. So a tremendous amount there, and it was just getting more emotional and more intense throughout the day, as you can imagine, Andy.
I can only imagine what you were witnessing there inside the courtroom. And of course, as we noted, you noted that the jury, some of the lawyers, the judge can see some of these images of these freak-offs, the videos, the photos, You mentioned the Cassie's reaction. Diddy also apparently looked at some of these images in a binder. Did you witness that moment?
I didn't witness him looking at them. I saw the binder when the prosecution handed the binder to the judge in order to work out this deal, because the thing they did not want to have happen is to show these videos and have them get out publicly and embarrass people and cause further trauma, because, you know, she is very clearly trying to heal. She went through all kinds of therapy for trauma and for sexual abuse, for all of these things. And she, wait, Randy, we got to readjust here. We're getting pounded with the rain. But she went through all kinds of therapy after 2018 to try and get through all this. And of course, Combs didn't let her go right away. There were other incidents that happened, and she finally was able to break free and build this whole new life for herself.
Let me pause you real quick.
It was stunning.
Let me pause you real quick. We see lawyers leaving the courtroom. You readjust real quickly, and let's listen in here on Live Now from Fox to what's going on there.
In the coming weeks, but I'm not going to give a date, but as you can see in court, she's very pregnant. She's about to give birth, but she's holding up strong. I mean, having to recount what happened during those 10 years and beyond, and talking about her contemplation of suicide, really just very powerful.
What do you think really is the part that got seemed like she really talked about their love. She really started to break down about how he just wasn't giving her what she needed, and she really felt that they were in love.
I think really just she was numb from the drugs that she was taking and everything that she had gone through, and realized that she had to tell the truth. And she told the truth in November 2023 when she filed her civil complaint. She revealed that she settled that case for $20 million.
She said that?
No, that's a fact. And now she's here in court to tell her truth here. So it's great. As I've said before, we have great faith in the system. We're going to let the jury decide, obviously, Mr. Combs' faith, but today was just a powerful day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, you're just listening in there, calling it a powerful day. That is Douglas Wigter, the attorney for Cassie Ventura, as you heard, a powerful day on the stand. Turning our attention back to Lisa Evers there, Fox 5 on the ground. You were witnessing inside. He also made notes of the lawsuit and the $20 million that she received. Can you get more into that? And what was Cassie like when she said that she felt like she was coming forward with this, that she had to get this off her chest?
She was, first of all, Andy, to your point, that is Douglas Wigdor. He's Cassie's attorney. He was the one that helped craft that civil lawsuit that basically set all of the wheels in motion since November of 2023. And the reason it became public was because Diddy had refused to settle it out of court. The paperwork was filed, and the paperwork was only in the system for about 24 hours, but it was so explosive that the information leaked out, and then that's what set everything off into motion here. But he's handled other high-profile cases, and he has been with her. He was sitting with her mother, with Cassie's mother, and with her husband and the family in that row that they had in the courtroom. And you know, it's just been very emotional. Cassie broke down talking about the sexual assault. She kept it together. Her composure today, she just walked in with tremendous confidence. And we could see Combs keeping his eye. He was transfixed as soon as she passed the defense table where he was seated with his attorneys and walked up to the witness stand in the court. You could see he did not move. He was like a statue. He was just looking straight ahead. We couldn't see the front of his face, but his body language was just like looking at it, and he literally did not move. His eyes were riveted on her for a long time, and that was a little bit eerie, to tell you the truth. But she held it together. She regained her composure, and and that was, these were the most intense moments so far of the entire trial. Now, tomorrow, what's going to be interesting to see is who in the defense team is the one that actually questions her and cross-examines her on everything that she has said. So you can be sure that they will be looking, that they have done research on what was in that civil lawsuit, that they're going to be doing all kinds of preparation for that. It'll be interesting to see what kind of an approach they take, because the defense has maintained that this is domestic abuse, this is not trafficking. However, Andy, you follow a lot of these legal cases, is the prosecution has been putting their they've been building step by step, stone by stone, the various elements they need to prove to the jury that this is in fact sex trafficking, it is RICO, it is transportation of prostitutes across state lines, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But tomorrow, I'm sure, will be quite emotional as well, Andy.
Yeah, we're just getting started. 0 to 100, and cross-examination begins.
All right, folks, back out live right now.
And the sex slave guy, Jonathan, confirmed that going across state lines and then some.
From inside court as
and he's one of the witnesses.
Of Cassie, the defense team is suggesting that Cassie Ventura, whose alleged abuse during Sean Combs' freak-offs is central to the prosecution's case, not only helped plan the sex parties, but also enjoyed them. The defense attorney brought out explicit messages from 2009, 2 years into the pair's relationship, that show Ventura and Combs coordinating one of those events. It can take place whenever, Ventura wrote when Combs asked what day they should hold it. I'm always ready for a freak-off, LOLOL, Ventura wrote in a message that the defense team had her read out loud for the court. Ventura testified that these exchanges were somewhat typical in previous testimony. She has acknowledged participating in freak-offs to please Combs, adding that she was young and naive at the time, and just yesterday she expressed remorse for helping select the prostitutes who participated. We should also let you know that Sean Combs' mother, Janice Combs, returned to court today as his defense team cross-examines Cassie Ventura. Since her son's arrest, she has become entangled in his legal troubles. She is named in multiple lawsuits that claim she helped conceal his alleged misconduct. Janice Combs also figures prominently in Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, a documentary on Peacock that alleges she threw wild parties during her son's childhood in Harlem, exposing Combs to sex and drugs. Sean Combs filed a defamation lawsuit against NBC, calling the program outrageous, a set of fresh lies. We're also learning more here coming from inside the court right now. Just want to bring you the latest right here that we definitely can continue to really showcase some of this back and forth from the defense right now. Diddy's defense team asking Ventura if she loved Combs for 11 years and cared for him. Ventura confirms that she did and agrees she called him larger than life. The defense asked Ventura if she called Combs Sean, unlike his public names, and knew a private side of him. Prosecution objected. Judge overrules. Ventura says in ways. The defense asked Ventura if she kept returning to Combs for 11 years. Ventura clarifies it wasn't coming back. The defense asked if she believed Combs loved her and if his cheating hurt. Ventura confirms belief in his love, says cheating didn't always hurt. The defense tries to show a defense exhibit, and the prosecution objected, not in evidence. A judge agrees. The defense asked Ventura to read it silently, and then why did she send it? Ventura says to tell Combs that she was going to dinner. The defense asked Ventura about the context of the messages. Ventura is unsure. Asked about the relationship, she says it was early and very loving. The defense offers exhibit. Prosecution objects, says it's for the truth. Judge overrules that one. The defense has Ventura read a 2009 email saying, "I love you," smiley face. "I'll fly anywhere for you. I love you." Cass. The prosecution objects. Hearsay. The judge tells The defense to ask more. The defense asks about BG from BlackBerry. Ventura says it's baby girl. The defense asks Ventura what she wrote. She says, "You hungry, Pop Pop?" The defense notes Combs wrote, "We are so in love, we don't do anything else." Asked how long they've been together. Ventura says about 2.5 years at that point. The defense asks Ventura to read the messages. "I haven't talked to you. You rushed me off the phone," she says. "I'm hurt. I don't need money. I need attention." The defense asks if Ventura wanted special time with Combs. She says yes. The defense notes also that Ventura said she told Combs, "I love you. You make me better," and wrote about wanting a baby. Ventura confirms the messages, admits knowing Combs had 6 kids then. The defense asked Ventura about messages on freak-offs, clarifying it doesn't matter, meant weekend or weekday. Ventura confirms. The defense notes Combs suggested calling Jules. Ventura agrees that she could. So talking a little bit about the timeline of really trying to organize these freak-offs. The defense asked Ventura if her message was explicit about an upcoming freak-off. Prosecution objects to that.
TSC Consultant Inc. I'm not here. You're not here to debate with me. And if you want to debate, you can go to your own platform and debate. I'm not here to debate with you. I don't know. It don't matter if you know about it or not. If you were here and not just a guest, you would have known what I've covered and talked about previously. Yeah, so go into the archives if you're wanting proof, or hit my Cash App, and I will provide that for you. $AUNTEAFEE. If not, sit back and just enjoy the show. But I'm not here to debate with you what I say on my platform. Okay? We clear? We clear?
At one. But again, I do want to hit some of the latest updates that are coming from court right now. Again, the defense team is.
I don't know about that. I ain't asked you if you knew about that.
Central to the prosecution's case.
What in the world?
Planned the sex parties, but also enjoyed them. The defense attorney brought out explicit messages from 2009, 2 years into the pair's relationship, that show Ventura and Combs coordinating one of those events. It could take place whenever. Ventura wrote.
And we don't troll over here.
What day they should hold it. I'm always ready for a freak-off. LOL. Ventura wrote in a message that the defense had her read aloud before the court. So this is some big takeaways that are going on right now, and just an hour into this cross-examination, and we are seeing a much different light of Cassie than what was presented by the prosecution yesterday and the day before. Remember, in the previous days, we heard the prosecution really try to zero in that Diddy was over-controlling and wanted to know exactly where she was at all times, and would demand that she call him and let him know where her whereabouts were. But today, much different from the cross-examination, where we are seeing evidence being put in by text message and emails showing a different side of Diddy than what was presented yesterday. We're seeing Cassie really complain to Diddy, saying that she doesn't feel that she has much time with him, and also that they don't speak on the phone that much. That directly showcases the opposite of what she was talking about yesterday, when she says he would always be on the phone with me and always want to be over at the house, banging on the door, telling him to come on in. So we are seeing a different side already, as this early stage right now, the cross-examination has begun. Also, I want to hit on some of the other things that we are seeing in this cross. Of course, we are seeing more of a lovey-dovey relationship and correspondence from text messages and emails.
It's always gonna be lovey-dovey until you start putting your hands on me and forcing me to sleep with people I don't want to sleep with.
And at that point,
and using the restroom on me and my mouth.
But she still said, I want a baby with you. So the defense really trying to show the jury, saying, look, she was actively involved in the swinger lifestyle, and she said she loved freak-offs and that she loved to plan them, and was also offering up suggestions as well during the course of the planning stages for these freak-offs. So that is a major takeaway that we are getting from today that is in direct opposition to what we heard yesterday, where she felt like freak-offs were just her job, and that she felt that she was able to do. And this is much different today from these correspondence and from these emails, text messages that are playing up so key right now, showing just a different side of her, and also in this relationship that was presented than what was presented by the prosecution just the other day here. So again, worldwide for you, bringing you these updates all in real time. And again, we are continuing to showcase just some more.
So she's still on the witness stand
as well. We are breaking it all down for you as this cross-examination does continue.
Chris Brown arrested. What was Chris Brown arrested for?
And
a bottle attack.
Conversations they may have had, Cassie and Diddy, previously about, withholding them or releasing them. They're going to be front and center there in the court. The public will not be able to see these videos, but the jurors won't they?
Yeah, so the court today put up privacy screens, so the jurors are going to be able to see the videos, but the folks who are in the courtroom and in the overflow room will not. That's the compromise that essentially Judge Subramanian made in this case. So, in many ways, Diddy is responsible for his own downfall, not because of what he did, which of course is the real reason, but in terms of creating evidence that is going to be used against him. So I'd say the two biggest strategic mistakes that Diddy made in this case is, first, not settling with Cassie Ventura. And today the testimony came out that he settled with her for $20 million, and reportedly he wanted to offer only $10 million. Well, he paid that additional $10 million just a few days earlier. We may not even be here today. The second big mistake, of course, is recording those freak-offs, and that evidence will be played. And
some of those recordings was without consent.
In this case, just like that 2016 video that we've all seen many, many times from the hotel here in Los Angeles. So that video evidence is going to be the most powerful.
Yeah, that hotel surveillance video now
immortalized
in a courtroom sketch by the artist there, which I thought was interesting. Back to the settlement, though, we did finally learn it was divulged in court today. Diddy paying Cassie $20 million in the settlement. This was settled within 24 hours. How important of a piece of the testimony was that today? That was obviously a civil suit that was settled between two parties, but it was settled quite quickly. We were speaking at the time that everyone involved in this case who was following it was so surprised that Diddy settled that quickly, and now we know the amount.
I was shocked that Diddy settled so quickly and he didn't settle before. So in November 2023, Cassie Ventura was up against the statute of limitations in New York. The state had opened that window for her to file a lawsuit against Diddy. Many of these claims had run their course. They were barred by the statute. But because there was this window to file, Cassie and her lawyers entered into negotiations with Combs, and reportedly it was only willing to pay $10 million, approximately $1 million for every year of abuse, and she wanted more. The reports at the time were 20 or 30 million. Now we know that number truly is 20 million. Cassie was forced to file the lawsuit to preserve her claims. Combs, of course, settled it the very next day, but it was too late. Lawsuits in this country are public, and once those salacious...
He is a monster. Y'all, hold on. Let's pause for a minute. Let's listen to this.
Over a bottle attack in a nightclub. So the reports via The Sun and Daily Mail are that the Met Police arrested Chris Brown at 2 a.m. at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. Now, they say that this arrest comes because Chris Brown at 2 a.m. at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. Now, they say that this arrest comes because of an incident that happened back in February of 2023, where he allegedly got into it with a music producer, and the music producer alleged that he was hit with a bottle, and there was like a whole fight.
2023.
So what they're reporting is that Chris Brown flew into Manchester Airport on a private jet yesterday afternoon, and then they became aware of his presence in the UK. So The Sun reached out to police there, and they asked, was Chris Brown under arrest? And the Met detectives then say that they traveled to Manchester, where they arrested Chris Brown at the hotel. They say that he was taken into custody and is thought to have been taken to a police station for questioning. The Met police released this. A 36-year-old man was arrested at a hotel in Manchester shortly after 200 hours. He was hit with a bottle, and there was like a whole fight. So what they're reporting is that Chris Brown flew into Manchester Airport on a private jet yesterday afternoon, and then they became aware of his presence in the UK. So The Sun reached out to police there, and they asked, was Chris Brown under arrest? And the Met detectives then say that they traveled to Manchester, where they arrested Chris Brown at the hotel. They say that he was taken into custody and is thought to have been taken to a police station for questioning. The Met police released this. A 36-year-old man was arrested at a hotel in Manchester shortly after 200 hours on Thursday, the 15th of May, on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. He has been taken into custody, where he remains. The arrest relates to an incident at a venue in Hanover Square on the 19th of February, 2023. And again, that incident that they're talking about is when the music producer said that it was an unprovoked attack that happened on him allegedly around 3 a.m. when Chris Brown and his entourage were at a club called Dirty Martini, and they got into it. So that is breaking right now. So there will be some updates there.
That's crazy.
Y'all need to hear this again.
So this news is breaking right now. Chris Brown was just arrested at his hotel in Manchester over a bottle attack in a nightclub. So the reports via The Sun and Daily Mail are that the Met Police arrested Chris Brown at 2 a.m. at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. Now, they say that this arrest comes because of an incident that happened back in February of 2023, where he allegedly got into it with a music producer, and the music producer alleged that he was hit with a bottle, and there was like a whole fight. So what they're reporting is that Chris Brown flew into Manchester Airport on a private jet yesterday afternoon, and then they became aware of his presence in the UK. So The Sun reached out to police there, and they asked, was Chris Brown under arrest? And the Met detectives then say that they traveled to Manchester, where they arrested Chris Brown at the hotel. They say that he was taken into custody and is thought to have been taken to a police station for questioning. The Met police released this. A 36-year-old man was arrested at a hotel in Manchester shortly after 200 hours on Thursday, the 15th of May, on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. He has been taken into custody, where he remains. The arrest relates to an incident at a venue in Hanover Square on the 19th of February, 2023. And again, that incident that they're talking about is when the music producer said that it was an unprovoked attack that happened on him allegedly around 3 a.m. when Chris Brown and his entourage were at a club called Dirty Martini, and they got into it. So that is breaking right now. So there will be some updates there.
That's crazy. Free him right now, y'all.
Go ahead, Jess.
Just about to fly out there and bail him out.
She was like, what happened? Like, you would have thought that this was her real man when I said it in the room. Like, what happened?
Free him right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
This happened so long ago.
It did. I don't know if maybe they were just waiting for him to get closer to bring him in for the question, or how that works. Because why can't you arrange something like that would have been my question. But
they don't live in that country.
Yeah, but you still know he's Chris Brown. You can know how to get to him to say, hey, we need you to turn yourself in for the question.
He's not special.
If I go back to that country,
they don't reach out. That's crazy.
He should have known when he went back to the country that they had a warrant for him.
Yeah, because it had to be leading up. Because this guy, he was alleging Chris Brown hit him over the head with a bottle, and at the entourage, like, got to kicking him on the floor, and then he had to go to the hospital, needed crutches. It was like a whole thing. But yes.
No, he didn't. He kicked him while he was on the floor?
That's what the man is alleging. He's alleging that Chris Brown and his entourage smashed him over the head with a bottle and then punched him and kicked him as he laid on the floor.
That's crazy, yo.
2 or 3 times. Yes. And Chris Brown was there because he has 10 dates coming up in the area. So yeah, he was flying in to get ready for that. And
all sold out.
Okay, I know that's right. Yeah, so there'll be some updates there. Now, switching gears to some other beefs. Tamar Braxton and Lonnie Love. The drama continues. The saga continues.
Nope.
The news media, other people came forward, and now we know there's approximately 100 accusers against Combs. But as far as this case is concerned, in many ways, Diddy is responsible for his own downfall, not because of what he did, which is, of course, is the real reason, but in terms of creating evidence that is going to be used against him. So I'd say the 2 biggest strategic mistakes that Diddy made in this case is first, not settling.
Oh, we missed our live. Oh, wow.
With Cassie Ventura, and today the testimony came out that he settled with her for $20 million, and reportedly he wanted to offer only $10 million. Well, he paid that additional $10 million just a few days earlier. We may not even be here today. The second big mistake, of course, is recording those freak-offs, and that evidence will be played, and that, I think, will be the determining factor in this case, just like that 2016 video that we've all seen many, many times
Today
from the
we are
hotel
back
here in Los
inside
Angeles. So
the federal
that video
courthouse
evidence
in
is going to be the
Manhattan,
most powerful.
where Cassie
that
Ventura
hotel
just gave
surveillance
what
video now
may be the most
immortalized
excruciating
in a courtroom
testimony we've
sketch
heard
by the
yet
artist there,
in the
which I thought
government's
was
sex
interesting.
trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs. And if you've been following it, yes, it is gross. It is kinky. It's dirty. It's embarrassing. It's shocking. It's stuff I don't think I've ever heard of, and I don't think I'm a prude. But the most important thing is not the gross stuff necessarily. And by the way, plenty of that came today, right? Like mouth sores. Cassie saying that she was having so much oral sex, she was developing mouth sores, that she was developing constant UTIs that even antibiotics wouldn't cure. She talked about violence and even an alleged saying that.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Back to the settlement, though. We did finally learn it was divulged in court today. Diddy paying Cassie $20 million in the settlement. This was settled within 24 hours. How important of a piece of the testimony was that today? That was obviously a civil suit that was settled between 2 parties, but it was settled quite quickly. We were speaking at the time that everyone involved in this case who was following it was so surprised that Diddy settled that quickly, and now we know the amount.
I was shocked that Diddy settled so quickly and he didn't settle before. So in November 2023, Cassie Ventura was up against the statute of limitations in New York. The state had opened that window for her to file a lawsuit against Diddy. Many of these claims had run their course. They were barred by the statute. But because there was this window to file, Cassie and her lawyers entered into negotiations with Combs, and reportedly it was only willing to pay $10 million, approximately $1 million for every year of abuse. And she wanted more. The reports at the time were 20 or 30 million. Now we know that number truly is 20 million. Cassie was forced to file the lawsuit to preserve her claims. Combs, of course, settled it the very next day, but it was too late. Lawsuits in this country are public, and once those salacious allegations hit the news media, other people came forward. And now we know there's approximately 100 accusers against Combs. But as far as this case is concerned, Andrew, I think it was important that the prosecution did 2 things. They brought out really 2 what may potentially be bad pieces of evidence. The first is the civil lawsuit. That this is really not about criminal justice, but this is about money. Yeah. That argument is going to resonate potentially with some of the viewers and some of the jurors. The other key piece of evidence, bad evidence, that the prosecution elicited today was Cassie Ventura's own violent outbursts, both respect to Combs himself, but some violent episodes involving others as well, including a young woman that she physically attacked. I think the defense will argue that Cassie Ventura was jealous. She admitted to being insanely jealous and that she was violent. There's going to be an argument both during the cross-examination, which begins tomorrow, but as well as closing arguments that really Cassie was the instigator when it came to many of these violent episodes. Not saying I believe it, but I fully expect the defense to go in that direction starting tomorrow.
Yeah, and you can imagine, I mean, she's 8 months pregnant, the stress this is taking on her, the toll that it is taking while pregnant, while having to testify in this extremely graphic sense. You know, I want to play out some of this sound that we got today. Leaving court was her attorney, Douglas Wigder. He's pretty high profile as far as victims' rights go. So let's just play that. I want to get you to respond to it on the back end. Let's listen to this.
Thank you. Sir, how do you think she did? Powerful testimony today. What was the most powerful part of it? Just the whole thing was powerful. And she told her truth. I wouldn't want to be having to do that cross-examination. That's for sure.
Are you worried about how she's holding up being pregnant and having to deal with all that stress?
It's always a concern. Obviously, given that she's about to give birth, but we're in the coming weeks. But I'm not going to give a date, but as you can see in court, she's very pregnant. She's about to give birth, but she's holding up strong. I mean, having to recount what happened during those 10 years and beyond, and talking about her contemplation of suicide, really just very powerful.
What do you think really is the part that got to her? It seemed like she really talked about their love. She really started to break down about how he just wasn't giving her what she needed, and she really felt that they were in love.
I think really just she was numb from the drugs that she was taking and everything that she had gone through, and she realized that she had to tell the truth, and she told the truth.
All right, just showcasing just some of the remarks there from legal analyst as well as Cassie's attorney, but we are back out with you. I do want to continue to bring you some more updates regarding the cross-examination of Cassie. Right now, we are learning more about the freak-offs, the sexual events Combs staged, dominated much of the testimony on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now the defense team is asking about the subject and displaying text messages to the jury in an apparent effort to show Cassie's enthusiasm for them. The defense lawyer is reading Combs's parts of the email and text exchanges and having Cassie recite what she wrote to him at the time. When do you want to freak off? LOL, Combs asked back in August of 2009. I'm always ready to freak off, she replied. 2 days later, Cassie sent an explicit, I can't wait to watch you. I want you to get real hot, he replied. Me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable, she said. All right, so that is another major takeaway that is coming from these text messages that show a very, very different side than what the prosecution was alleging.
No, it's not.
Also, continuing to
that is
talk
not
about,
a different side. She said
right
that
now,
she
the
enjoyed it
turnaround
at the beginning.
Message she sent to Combs confirming it was sent 2 days after they planned.
ZipRecruiter finds qualified candidates for me.
Acknowledges both points here.
That is not a different side.
About 10 minutes ago, Cassie Ventura asked for a break after the defense attorney began presenting sexually explicit emails between her and Sean Combs. That break did last for 10 minutes, but again, we are updating you here in real time on the different points that are coming across here in this cross-examination, as we are still in the early stages of the cross-examination, but just want to again reiterate just some of the updates that were coming out earlier today, as the defense started off gentle. The defense begun questioning Cassie in a gentle tone of voice, the court reporter said. It's notable because so many cross-examinations can begin with efforts to unsettle and agitate a witness. The defense's approach is the opposite. Earlier, the defense introduced their love text, the prosecution's case, not by text message and email.
Public, and once those salacious and in the overflow room will not. That's the compromise that essentially Judge Subramanian made in this case. So, in many ways, Diddy is responsible.
Diddy than what was presented yesterday. We're seeing Cassie really complain to Diddy, saying that she hasn't much time with him, and also that they don't speak on the phone that much. That directly
she wanted a boyfriend, not a pimp.
Showcases the opposite of what she was talking about yesterday when she says he would always be on the phone with me and always want to be over at the house, banging on the door, telling him to come on in. So we are seeing a different side already as this early stage right now of the cross-examination has begun. Also, I want to hit on some of the other things that we are seeing in this cross. Of course, we are seeing more of a lovey-dovey relationship and correspondence from text messages and emails. And I think one of the biggest takeaways right now is Cassie saying, "I want a baby with you." And at that point, Diddy already had 6 children, but she still said, "I want a baby with you." So the defense really trying to show the jury, saying, look, she was actively involved in the swinger lifestyle, and she said she loved freak-offs and that she loved to plan them, and was also offering up suggestions as well during the course here of the planning stages for these freak-offs. So that is a major takeaway that we are getting from today that is in direct opposition to what we heard yesterday, where she felt like freak-offs were just her job, and that she felt that the freak-offs were the only thing that she was able to do. And this is much different today from these correspondence and from these emails, text messages that are playing up so key right now, showing just a different side of her, and also presented than what was by the prosecution just the other day here. So again, worldwide for you, bringing you these updates all in real time. And again, we are continuing to showcase just some more from legal analysts as well. We are breaking it all down for you as this cross-examination does continue.
And welcome back to conversations they may have had, Cassie and Diddy, previously about, withholding, releasing them. They're going to be front and center there in the court. The public will not be able to see these videos, but the jurors won't they?
Yeah, so the court today put up privacy screens, so the jurors are going to be able to see the videos, but the folks who are in the courtroom and in the overflow room will not. That's the compromise that essentially Judge Subramanian made in this case. So, in many ways, Diddy is responsible for his own downfall, not because of what he did, which of course is the real reason, but in terms of creating evidence that is going to be used against him. So I'd say the two biggest strategic mistakes that Diddy made in this case is, first, not settling with Cassie Ventura. And today the testimony came out that he settled with her for $20 million, and reportedly he wanted to offer only $10 million. Well, we paid that additional $10 million just a few days earlier. We may not even be here today. The second big mistake, of course, is recording those freak-offs, and that evidence will be played.
Trying to shortchange after you don't
will be the determining
baited this girl since she was 19 years old.
2016 video that we've all seen many, many times from the hotel here in Los Angeles. So that video evidence is going to be the most powerful.
Yeah, that hotel surveillance video now immortalized in a courtroom sketch by the artist there, which I thought was interesting. Back to the settlement, though, we did finally learn it was divulged in court today. Diddy paying Cassie $20 million in the settlement. This was settled within 24 hours. How important of a piece of the testimony was that today? That was obviously a civil suit that was settled between two parties, but it was settled quite quickly. We were speaking at the time that everyone involved in this case who was following it was so surprised that Diddy settled that quickly, and now we know the amount.
I was shocked that Diddy settled so quickly and he didn't settle before. So in November 2023, Cassie Ventura was up against the statute of limitations in New York. The state had opened that window for her to file a lawsuit against Diddy. Many of these claims had run their course. They were barred by the statute. But because there was this window to file, Cassie and her lawyers entered into negotiations with Combs, and reportedly it was only willing to pay $10 million, approximately $1 million for every year of abuse, and she wanted more. The reports at the time were 20 or 30 million. Now we know that number truly is 20 million. Cassie was forced to file the lawsuit to preserve her claims. Combs, of course, settled it the very next day, but it was too late. Lawsuits in this country are public, and once those salacious allegations hit the news media, other people came forward. And now we know there's approximately 100 accusers against Combs. But as far as this case is concerned, Andrew, I think it was important that the prosecution did two things. They brought out really two what may potentially be bad pieces of evidence. The first is the civil lawsuit, that this is really not about criminal justice, but this is about money. Yeah. That argument is going to resonate potentially with some of the viewers and some of the jurors. The other...
Meet Sam. Every day starts with his morning routine. Like many of us.
Violent outbursts, both respected Combs himself, but some violent episodes involving others as well, including a young woman that she physically attacked. I think the defense will argue that Cassie Ventura was jealous. She admitted to being insanely jealous and that she was violent. There's going to be an argument both during the cross-examination, which begins tomorrow, but as well as closing arguments that really Cassie was the instigator when it came to many of these violent episodes. Not saying I believe it, but I fully expect the defense to go in that direction starting tomorrow.
Yeah, you can imagine. I mean, she's 8 months pregnant. The stress this is taking on her, the toll that it is taking while pregnant, while having to testify in this extremely graphic sense. I want to play out some of this sound that we got today. Leaving court was her attorney, Douglas Wigder. He's pretty high profile as far as victims' rights go. So let's just play that. I want to get you to respond to it on the back end. Let's listen to this.
replied, "Me too. I just wanted to be uncontrolled."
Examination, that's for sure. Are you
legal analyst as well as Cassie's attorney, but we are back out with you. I do want to continue to bring you some more updates regarding the cross-examination of Cassie. Right now, we are learning more about the freak-offs, the sexual events Combs staged, dominated much of the testimony on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now the defense team is asking about the subject and displaying text messages to the jury in an apparent effort to show Cassie's enthusiasm for them. The defense lawyer is reading Combs'
She has said that she loved him.
text exchanges, and
It's obvious she loved him more than she loved herself
at the time. When do you want to freak off? LOL, Combs asked back in August of 2009. I'm always ready to freak off, she replied. 2 days later, Cassie sent an explicit message to Combs. I can't wait to watch you. I want you to get real hot, he replied. Me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable, she said. All right, so that is another major takeaway that is coming from these text messages that show a very, very different side than what the prosecution was alleging. We're also continuing to talk about the defense questioning right now Ventura about an explicit message she sent to Combs, confirming it was sent 2 days after they planned a freak-off. Ventura acknowledges both points here. About 10 minutes ago, Cassie Ventura asked for a break after the defense attorney began presenting sexually explicit emails between her and Sean Combs. That break did last for 10 minutes, but again, we are updating you here in real time on the different points that are coming across here in this cross-examination, as we are still in the early stages of the cross-examination, but just want to again reiterate just some of the updates that were coming out earlier today, as the defense started off gentle. The defense begun questioning Cassie in a gentle tone of voice, the court reporter said. It's notable because so many cross-examinations can begin with efforts to unsettle and agitate a witness. The defense's approach is the opposite. Earlier, the defense introduced their love text. The prosecutors objected. The first exhibits included by the defense team are messages exchanged between Combs and Cassie in the early years of the relationship. In one, Combs writes, "I'm truly a lucky man." Cassie writes back, "I'm a very lucky woman. I love you so much." Prosecutors are objecting frequently to exhibits introduced by the defense. The judge is rejecting many of the objections, appearing to be giving the defense some breathing room in the early stages of its examination. The defense is confronting Cassie with loving emails and text messages that she and the hip-hop mogul exchanged early on. In one 2008 email, Cassie told Combs that she was a lucky woman. "I love you so much," she wrote, after Combs thanked her for flying to Atlanta to be with him. In August of 2009, in a message sent when Combs went by the moniker Puppy, the rap star told her, "I love you so much, it makes me cry." Cassie replied, "You hungry, Pop Pop?" She testified that Pop Pop was a nickname that she used for Combs while he sometimes called her baby girl. He said no, to which Cassie told him to let her know if he changed his mind. In April of 2010, Cassie told Combs, "Going to sleep now so it can be tomorrow faster and you can be home. Love you." Combs replied, "Love my baby." Also, Combs appears relaxed during this cross-examination as he's getting underway. He's sitting back in his chair with his legs crossed, speaking to his lead counsel as well. The defense has Cassie reading out loud from the warm emails and messages that she exchanged with the hip-hop star early on, portraying them to the jurors as a loving, caring couple and a counterpoint to 2 days of testimony about force and violence. Combs was charismatic with a larger-than-life personality, she testified. I had fallen in love with him and cared about him very much, she acknowledged. Cassie reads a 2010 email, I don't need your money. But another message, Cassie read points to fractures in their relationship.
I don't need
which,
your
according
money.
to her earlier testimony, devolved into violence and Combs' increasing obsession with seeing her have sex with strangers during drug-fueled sex parties he called freak-offs. In an April 2010 email, she expressed disappointment that Combs would rush her off the phone and wasn't spending time with her. Cassie read the email in court. That's not being in a relationship with someone that you love and are in love with. I am really hurt by the way you deal with me. I don't need your money. I need some attention. And then questioning turned to the freak-offs. The sexual events Combs staged dominated much of the testimony from Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Now the defense is asking about the subject and displaying text messages to the jury in an apparent effort to show Cassie's enthusiasm for them. The defense lawyer is reading Combs' part of the email and text exchanges and having Cassie recite what she wrote to him at the time. When do you want to freak off? LOL, Combs asked in August of 2009. I'm always ready to freak off, she replied. 2 days later, Cassie sent an explicit message to Combs. I can't wait to watch you. I want you to get real hot.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta take a call.
I just wanted to be So again, we are giving you these early exchanges right now.
Hey, y'all, I'm sorry I had to take that call.
As well as the replies from Cassie. The idea that the freak-offs were consensual is central to Sean's defense. And after the
Desiree,
his defense lawyer prompted Cassie Ventura to read very explicit messages sent between her and Combs. In these messages, which were sent on BlackBerry devices in 2009, Ventura describes giving oral sex in graphic terms with the expectation that this would be performed during a freak-off. All right, we are getting some more updates here from inside of the court. The defense is reading messages between Ventura and Combs. He says he wants to see her. She replies, "I can't wait either." She later writes, "I feel like I want to get effed." Combs texts he's too horny to concentrate, prompting another reply from her. Ventura says she planned to get candles from a store and set up the room. The defense asked if she knew Combs would record if he had any pills. Ventura said she planned to get candles from the store and set up the room. The defense asked if she knew Combs would record her again. The judge stops the question after an objection. The defense then points out Ventura asked if he had any pills again. So again, major takeaways continuing to happen here inside of the courtroom, that we are getting the updates in real time. Of course, sometimes viewer discretion is advised because of these very serious nature. Again, I just want to read off that quick back and forth that just happened here. As the defense read messages between Ventura and Combs, he says he wants to see her. She replies, "I can't wait either." She later writes, "I feel like I want to get effed." Combs text, he's way too horny to concentrate, prompting another reply.
Way too horny.
Ventura says she planned to get candles from a store and set up the room. And again, now just going more into the freak-off nature and the planning of that continues on here. So again, stay right here. Worldwide for you on Live Now from Fox, continuing to update you here of the latest takeaways. Cross-examination does continue of Cassie. Day 4 in the
Pros is personalized hair care. That's all about you, not just for your hair type, but formulated for
Combs messages show. Yet more messages from court show that Cassie was growing frustrated with the state of her relationship with Combs. They weren't yet public with their courtship, and in a December 2009 email, Cassie told the hip-hop star she needed something more from him than a sexual partnership. Responding to a sexually explicit email from Combs, Cassie wrote, "I like that. I want it, and I want to give you the same. I just think that I have to trust you beyond it just being sexual." Do you know what I mean? The message could. In order for me to be more open with the things we do in bed, I need to
she
feel
still didn't know that she was just a sex partner.
This is my husband, and this is the only man
She didn't know that
will ever have this aggressive sexual side of me. Combs' lawyers are seeking to portray Cassie as a willing participant in Combs' freak-off lifestyle.
Bless her heart.
The defense has Cassie reading her sexually explicit messages for the jury as
she didn't know, y'all.
Continue. These communications between Cassie and Combs are graphic, describing, for example, what she wanted to do during the freak-offs, and the defense is making Cassie read them out loud, word by word, while the lawyer reads Combs' parts. The judge is allowing these emails, which don't discuss what happened, but rather what she was anticipating or wanting to have happen at the time.
She wanted more.
After an extensive discussion on what evidence the defense could present, the judge disallowed messages reflecting attempts by Combs to learn whether Cassie was having sex with other men she was dating. So far, those other messages have been within the boundaries set by the judge. The defense asked Cassie how many tattoos she had, triggering an objection from prosecutors that was overruled by the judge. Cassie then revealed that she had 3 tattoos when she met Combs, including one on the inside of the forearm that said, "No regrets." The gentle questioning of Cassie by the defense team may have reached a crescendo when the Combs lawyer was asking her about her early music career and a successful first album. At one point, the defense said, "And you're very beautiful and charming." Light laughter could be heard in the courtroom, prompting the lawyer to say, "Well, it's true." Cassie responded by thanking her. Waiting for other updates that we could bring to you here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate all our viewers continuing to be with us right now. During the cross-examination, has concentrated on her relationship with Sean Combs before 2010. Cassie Ventura has been asked some probing questions about her sexual feelings toward him, as well as the timeline of her relationship with a previous boyfriend, Ryan Leslie. As in previous days, Ventura has answered some questions with a little smirk or smile. She even giggled when an old journal-like email she wrote up was brought up. She has seemed fairly composed, occasionally tilting her head when she is confused by the phrasing of defense attorneys' questions. Let's see if we could get more updates here on the Live Now Box regarding this big in-demand right now, cross-examination that is continuing, and we're showcasing it all to you from our court reporters that are now, again, inside of the courtroom, continuing to do the work here. And it looks like we'll continue to be bringing you these updates all in real time right now. Okay, we got some more updates that we could
I personally think that this decision is not going to be made until the close of evidence on the prosecution's case. I think that they will always leave open the option of having Diddy testify, because you never know what could be countered with his testimony. But it is very dangerous to have the defendant testify, because it opens them up to tons of cross-examination.
Is a defense
want the defendant
strategy of using old text messages to challenge Cassie's allegation effective? Not to me.
Okay, I promised everybody we'd have updates from court, and they are back. So let me give everybody an update. The judge has asked the defense attorney, Ana Esteveo, Ms. Esteveo, has the witness, meaning Cassandra Ventura, had a chance to review the exhibits? The prosecutor responds they are lengthy. The judge says, we'll do the best that we can. I was told this witness would be off the stand by the end of the week. We let the jury go early yesterday. The judge followed up with, if there's something that really needs to be done on cross-examination after lunch tomorrow, I may allow it. We have to leave time for redirect. This witness is being responsive. So Safa, there is an effort by this court to make sure that Cassandra Ventura doesn't come back into court next week. No, trials are fluid. What do you think the right thing to do is here?
You know, unfortunately, I think the right thing to do is to continue to allow Ms. Ventura to testify and allow the defense and the prosecution to take as much time with her as they need. And I know it's not the most comfortable thing. I know time is of the essence because she is expecting, but this is a court of law. The important part here is a fair jury, and that would require her to continue to testify. I know that the defense has a lot more to go, and it's only right and it's only fair judicially to allow them to continue to do that and not cut them short. And I think that if that is the case, that certainly could be an issue that's brought up on appeal. And the prosecution is also going to want to take the opportunity to rehabilitate her if necessary.
So I mentioned we have these polls going up on Long Prime, and I hope everybody can jump in there. They're on YouTube. I mentioned before how a majority of those polled believe that Cassie is more credible than Diddy after both her direct examination and the start of the cross-examination. Well, we have another poll. Is the defense's strategy of using old text messages to challenge Cassie's allegations effective? This is a closer one. 47% say very effective, 53% say not very effective. Serena, that's interesting, right? I mean, because it's not as if, I guess,
it's not current.
Cassie had shied away from her alleged participation or love in the freak-offs or her love of Sean Combs, but they do provide a piece of this puzzle in a way. It's a complicated case. It seems it's more gray than black and white. But when you see that poll relatively close about the effectiveness of the text messages, what does that tell you?
I'm surprised in my practice and from what I've seen in my almost 2 decades of practicing criminal law. I think your statements, if they are inconsistent statements, they weigh very heavily on a juror's determination of credibility. You make prior inconsistent statements. I mean, it's very effective for a defense attorney to say, hey, listen, you are going to have to rely mainly on this person's testimony and credibility. You have to judge this person. You have to decide whether they're telling you the truth or not. How are you going to do that if you weren't personally there? How can you judge them? And a huge way to judge people is based on whether they've kept a consistent story, whether they're telling a jury something today that they've told other people differently in the past. And in my experience, a jury really does glom on to prior inconsistent statements and does hold that against the witness. Now, it's possible that people are just, really giving her the benefit of the doubt because she was so young and because of the circumstances of the power imbalance. And maybe that is why people are just not willing to just kind of take the text messages and say, oh, that's it, she's not credible.
Now, look, we're focusing so much time on Cassandra Ventura, not only because she's on the stand, but she is victim number one. She's the star witness in this case. And I'll talk about a little bit later whether or not she will make or break this entire case. But this is important. Safa, we got a question from Rachel Renee. Is there proof, or do we know if the FBI was investigating Diddy before Cassie filed her lawsuit? I will go out and say I haven't heard that. It seems to me it was Cassandra Ventura's lawsuit that launched everything. Would I be correct in assuming that?
They can assume that if they want to, but after finding out, hold on. It's easy to assume that because they haven't really touched in on that crazy man, that former Chippendale dancer, ex-slave. He said that he was Diddy and Cassie's XXX slave. And he settled, what, 2014? What year did he settle his $5 million? We touched bases on it last night. Did I know he was going to be called? At that time, I didn't quite know that she had named him, and validated everything that he had been saying long time ago. So really, the way he was talking to the feds and bringing up where he sounded like he was crazy when he shot up one of Trump Towers, they thought it was crazy, right? And he started talking about Diddy and being a worker and liquid cocaine and flying it on private jets with big Ross and what's his name? DJ Khalil, what's his name? DJ Khaled, yeah. So I'm going to assume that they've really been watching him since then. On the cool. That's my opinion.
I agree as well. I think that Ms. Ventura's lawsuit was the catalyst for why we're here today. And essentially her allegations in the lawsuit are...
I don't think she's been inconsistent, really.
I don't think that there's any evidence or proof that the FBI was investigating him prior to this. I do think that the basis of the launch of the investigation was as a result of Ms. Ventura's lawsuit.
Because all the way about love and not in love and sex and wanting it and not wanting it, she owned the fact that she was into it at first. After a while at first, she wasn't. Then she did it for him. Then she didn't want to do it no more.
I'll tell you, I think transportation to engage in prostitution. I think that is a very difficult difficult charge for them to defend. If you're talking about transporting alleged victims and sex workers for the purposes of transportation, for the purposes of prostitution, if you're talking about payment and you're talking about Cassandra Ventura being flown to different places, the argument during the opening statement was Combs paid these people for their time and experience. What? I think he's going to easily be convicted of that charge. That's my point.
I think so
Serena,
too.
What do you think?
We got witnesses.
Which charge do you think is the strongest?
You stole my thunder, Jesse.
Sorry.
That's exactly the charge. That's exactly the charge I was going to say, because there's not too many. It's not convoluted. It's a pretty straightforward charge, and the evidence is pretty straightforward to prove that charge. And you don't have to, really judge somebody's credibility on that charge versus, consent versus not consent, domestic violence versus kidnapping. This charge seems to be pretty easily made out. So that's the easiest charge in my opinion as well.
Safa, before I go to you on that, I just want to give everybody an update from court. So Cassandra Ventura has entered court once again. Again, we're giving real-time updates about what's happening. She has entered the courtroom. The jury has entered. The cross-examination appears like it has continued or is about to continue. Sean Combs' attorney, Anna Esteveo, says, let's turn to GX 411. Prosecutor Emily Johnson says it's not in evidence yet. Esteveo says, so B414, page 3 and 4, you wrote, I love our FOs, meaning freak-offs, when we both want it. You felt that? Ventura responds, loving FOs were just words at that point.
New double serum, visible anti-aging results in 7 days. The power to change your skin's future.
LOL, me too. Ventura responds in court, I texted more than that. Esteveo says, but you did text that to him. Mr. Combs wrote to you, Jules is available if you're into it. So, Safa, let's just, I mean, if you want to talk about the most strongest, but just reaction to that, because it goes to this idea she was a willing participant. But, someone would look at that and say, someone can agree to sexual intercourse 99% of the time, but that one time they say no.
Absolutely.
And they are sexually assaulted, that is sexual assault. What is your take on how important this idea of these messages and her being a willing participant is?
Sorry, Jesse, I'm having some technical.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Serena, did you hear? That's okay. Safa, stand by. We're going to work on your tech. Serena, did you hear my question?
No, I did not hear your question. Can you say it again?
Okay. All right. Here we go. So
do you have a little tech issue here too?
Okay. All right. It's all good. So basically, I was reading from the transcript of court, and more of Cassandra Ventura's text messages are being read, which would seem to suggest she wanted to participate or was willing to participate in the freak-offs. And if that's the case, again, you could have somebody who 99% of the time will agree to sexual intercourse. But one time they say no, and it's imposed against them, and they're sexually assaulted, that's sexual assault. That's it. The defense is focusing a lot on her being a willing participant, either as a form to, strike at her credibility, or to say, she was a part of this. How effective is this?
It could be effective, right? These text messages definitely show kind of this eagerness to participate, the desire to be in his circle.
Just because I wanted it one day don't mean I want it forever.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, those text messages I found were to be pretty damning, and to show that she wanted to be in that situation, they do have evidence of that. Now, again, I go back to this video. The video is just so helpful to show that at some point she changed her mind.
Absolutely.
If she did, in fact, originally want to be a part of the freakouts, at some point later on down the road, she did not. And exactly what you said is true. If you agree to have consensual sex 99 times and then the 100th time you say no, it is rape. If you are, so I do agree. The text messages are damning, but then again, she could have wisened up. She was a young girl. She could have taken a look around and realized, like, hey, this is really uncomfortable for me. This is not something I want to be a part of. And I'm putting my foot down now. And the second she put her foot down, that's when it becomes non-consensual.
Facts.
Serena, we have a super chat question. Thank you so much for your support. Captain and Hard, this is a question. Do you think the defense will show abuse from Cassie to Diddy? I've seen interviews from old bodyguards that sometimes she would start fights. It's an interesting question because although a very different case, it was a civil case, why did Johnny Depp arguably win his case against Amber Heard? Because they were able to show that she seemingly abused him, right? And so I think that that's an important question. What's your take on it, Serena?
You know, I think you have to be delicate with this line of questioning if they were to go down that road. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, obviously, as you know, those were different. You know, the elements that needed to be proven were different. Here, I don't know that if she started fights with him, that necessarily contradicts the case. It doesn't necessarily mean that she wasn't trafficked or that he didn't operate a RICO. That just because she started fights, it meant that she had total control, both physical and mental, over her situation, such that she could have escaped at any time without any repercussions. I just don't see it. You know, even just the physicality, she's obviously smaller than he is. The power position is there. I think you could go there to try to say, oh, you're not such a great person either, but then you might, you know, alienate the jury by saying that. A jury might take a step back and be like, you know what, that's a little too far for me. She obviously was in the inferior position here. So I don't think it would be too successful.
We have an update from court. Sean Combs' lawyer, Anna Esteveo, asks Cassandra Ventura, you could have said yes or no, and you said love you. Ventura responds, there was no yes or no. Esteveo says, bring up B420 on page 2. Mr. Combs wrote, do I have your permission to set up freaky fun? You wrote ovulation, and then Ventura says yes. Again, going to this idea, this is going to be a very big theme about consent, because consent is arguably a defense to what we're talking about here. We have a question from Kempkin Lil Kemp Love. Serena, is Diddy credible considering he denied hitting women and advocated being against domestic violence? Good question.
It's an excellent question. And again, that goes back to kind of your ability or the prosecution's ability to show inconsistencies, right? Because inconsistencies not only shed doubt in a person's credibility for the instant matter, but it also sheds doubt as to whether they are a credible person in general, whether they should be believed in general. And so if he is somebody who has successfully lied in the past, right, he's convinced the world that he's against domestic violence and against battering women, and he's been so public about it, you know, that tends to shed a poor light on him later on down the road for the jury to look at, because now they could say, look, this guy is a professional liar. He's been able to convince people in the past about a certain position that he's taken, and yet here we are with uncontrovertible proof in the video that he absolutely has battered at least one woman at least one time in his life. And so I do think that using that against him is powerful.
Court update. This is from Esteveo. Again, Anna Esteveo representing Sean Combs, questioning Cassandra Ventura. Here, what do you say? Ventura says, I asked which hotel. I must have called him in between. I don't want to assume anything. Esteveo asks, he said Montag. You said you could also go to Pleasure Chest. What would you get there? And Ventura says sexual supplies. You know, it was an interesting conversation. One of the questions we had earlier on in the week was, Serena, could she be charged, you know, as an accomplice to this? Now, no, right? I mean, unless she was a part of allegedly abusing other people, you can't be an accomplice to your own abuse or alleged abuse. Then it's not really abuse.
Right. In a weird way, one could maybe take some mental gymnastics and say, well, she can't be a participant in her own abuse, but perhaps she was, you know, part of this RICO conspiracy and, you know, campaign to harm other people.
Or transportation to engage in prostitution. That could be another one, I guess.
Exactly. But at this point, it's clear that the prosecution has drawn the line, has made their decision. She's not, they're considering her a victim. They are not considering her a participant. And frankly, if they've put her on the stand to testify about all of these things, then they've essentially given her immunity. So she will not be prosecuted for these crimes unless she would have waived immunity, which I am sure she did not.
Right. Serena, we have a super chat question. Thank you so much from Zen Pi. If sex tapes exist, how can prosecutors prove they weren't staged, edited, or illegally obtained?
That's a good question. Sometimes prosecutors don't go the length and get a whole expert about how this is not AI, this is not tainted, this is not manipulated. But in today's day and age, it's true. I think people may have some questions about possible manipulation of tapes. And so what needs to happen is that tape needs to be authenticated, or that video needs to be authenticated by somebody. Either the person who took the video, which if it's Diddy, you may never get him on the stand, or
he better not get on there, they're gonna wear him out.
So if Cassie, for example, is in the video, then she is a proper foundation witness to authenticate that video. What she would need to be able to tell a jury is, I watched this video, I saw it the way that it's being presented to you, and I can authenticate that it is an accurate video, and that it has not been manipulated, that this is what's called a fair and accurate depiction of exactly what happened. And so that's how the prosecution gets around those questions.
So another update from court. Ms. Esteveo, this is Sean Combs' lawyer, asks, what supplies? Ventura responds, lubricants, outfits. Esteveo says, he says, have fun, impress me. You say, okay. He says, can we kiss a lot? What do you say? Ventura says yes. So this is, again, talking about the conversation that she had with Sean Combs. Esteveo says, you wrote, I left the iPad. Ventura says, I don't know whose iPad this meant. Okay, back here with Safa. Safa's back with us as well. So Safa, I was going to ask this. This is a question from Jesse Weber from Long Crack. If the jury doesn't believe Cassandra Ventura, if they find her to be a weak witness, does that affect the rest of the prosecution's case? Because we expect Jane is going to testify. We expect Mia is going to testify. These other alleged victims. I don't know about alleged victim number 3. If they don't believe the star witness, does that catapult the entire prosecution case?
It's not going to catapult the entire prosecution case, but it's certainly going to do damage to the prosecution's case in chief. She is the star witness. She's the primary witness here. She is victim 1, and the prosecution is leading off with her because she is their strongest witness. So if the jurors find her uncredible, then that could present issues later. But we also have victim 2, and we also have victim 3. So victim 2 and victim 3 will also have the ability to get on the stand, testify, tell their stories, and the jury, although they may not find Ms. Ventura credible, they could find victim 2 and or victim 3 credible, which would save the prosecution's case.
Then again,
I don't think I've heard that, Barbara, that he was knocking around his mama.
We don't necessarily believe. Now, I'm not saying that one way or another, because for the past 2 days, Cassandra Ventura has delivered quite compelling and graphic and disturbing testimony that raises the question, how on earth can someone actually consent to the things that she said she endured? And I'm not going to get into more detail about it. If you want to read it, you can check it out. I have a poll that came up, on YouTube, Long Crime. Do you think Cassie's settlement suggests she was financially motivated? 34% say yes, 66% say no. Serena, what do you think about that? And what do you think about the settlement?
Well, I think that settlements are always fair game when it comes to cross-examination and determining somebody's credibility. However, in this case, the settlement already happened. Right. Normally, in a situation where the settlement hasn't happened yet, somebody might be motivated to put forth criminal charges against somebody else in order to get that settlement down the road, right? Because the burden of proof in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's higher than in a civil case. And so, for example, if you go against somebody criminally and then you could essentially take that verdict and go right to civil court and say, look, I already have proof that this happened to me. The burden of proof in a criminal case is much higher than in a civil case. And so therefore, this person is guilty in the civil case as well. Now pay me. However, she's already gotten that favorable outcome. She's already gotten the settlement. So what is her incentive to now continue on, 8 months pregnant, going through all of this on the stand when she's already been paid out? So I think it actually helps her that the settlement already happened. And maybe somebody might on that jury infer from that settlement that he was guilty. Otherwise, he wouldn't have paid out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's times when we have cooperating witnesses who are in the middle of litigation and they're questioned. Well, you would definitely benefit from
Barbara, let me say this. This is just, again, my opinion. Hold on. See, I think that Diddy knew that he could easily manipulate her. I think that if he's a narcissist, he knows how to bait and switch. So I would assume if he was talking to her like that, hey, V Money, hey, I would think that he baiting her, like maybe they had got into it, he had beat her up, and she had been complaining about this, that, and the other. And so his way at that time was to try to act like he is considering her, that's bait to me. That's playing on her to keep her where you want her. Does that make sense? Because you can't be controlling and dominant all the way around, manipulated. Yeah, that's all it is. So he worded it like that to make her feel like she was inclusive, to make her act like he really wanted her instead of looking at them fellas over there, Yeah, that's all it was, because she was vulnerable. It was obvious that she was weak-minded. I mean, I'm not trying to talk down on her, but I don't even know if he was just a smooth talker. I think he dangled a career for 10, 11 years that he knew that he wasn't going to make that dream come true for her. He knew that. He knew that. He knew that she didn't have what he wanted her to have or needed to be a successful artist. He knew that. But he also played with her with that to string her along and keep her into the trafficking, pimping part of it. He was a pimp. He was not her boyfriend. And that's why she was begging and threatening. Yeah. That's why she had to ask for this. I was into it because it made him happy. I wanted to do this for him. He was my man. No, baby girl, he's your pimp. See, that's why AunTeaFee insists on calling things what it is. Because otherwise it's a lie. She really thinks, can we have kissing? A lot of kissing. She has had to have asked for that type of intimacy, and he playing into her to keep her going. I don't know no dude who is into you and y'all in a relationship. He already know what you like. He already knows what turns you on. He don't have to ask you, can we kiss a lot? What? Are we new to this, or are we, what? My man, for how many years, have to ask me, can we kiss a lot? What? That right there, if she would have said that didn't happen, I would have believed her, because that's not typical. That is not typical. How many men out there have asked they woman, they wife, when I get home tonight, can we kiss a lot? What? That don't make sense to me. So he already knew that that's what she wanted. That's what she needed. That's what she wanted, that passion, you know, because she wanted it to be her boyfriend. Them freak offs. It ain't no passion in that. That is straight. And that's not what she wanted. She wanted love. She wanted her dude to make love to her. Period. And I don't care what nobody say, he just wasn't that into her like that. Even though they was together 11 years. Just like D.L. Hughley was said the other day, you know, what happened to lying to the girls and telling them that you love them? When did they start drugging to get the cookie? Yeah, he had to drug them to get the cookie. When back in the day, all you had to do was tell a girl, I love you, and she go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and get that cookie to you. Let's finish listening. Because I'm almost out of juice.
Different situation here. Okay, we got a super chat question from Ashley Glass. Ashley, thank you so much. Safa, how can she be seen as willing participant?
Yeah,
she was allegedly
listen.
with.
As far as Jaguar Wright goes, Jaguar Wright may know surface things, but the intimacy part, unless she was at the freak off with them at that one. Now I'm not saying she wasn't in ones with Jay-Z, because she was intimate with Jay-Z, but Jaguar Wright cannot possibly know everything in everybody's sexual situation. I don't believe it. Now I think she's been right about a lot of stuff. But I'm about to agree with Chopper for making her the bands. Some of that is exaggerated. Because what it sounded like to me, if Jaguar Wright was in those rooms at their freak offs, her name would have came up by now. We know that there was a guy over there that was sitting on the bed when he was beating up down that hall. And she didn't say nothing about a female that was in the room. So some of this stuff, no. I'm not giving her that type of credit. Now, she knows some stuff. Don't misunderstand me. She knows some stuff. But she has more details about Jay-Z. Yeah. And probably Mary. Yeah, the abortions and all that type of stuff. I believe she know that. Because that was more her era. Her era wasn't this baby girl. She too young. What's going on in Memphis, Lord?
Videos and photos.
Well, that's going to be a question for the jury to decide. But the defense, what they're going to do and what they've been doing is highlighting the conversations via text message that show her initiation of certain freak-offs or her initiation maybe buying certain supplies or products and things like that. So that's what the defense is going to hang on to here with respect to that. So, you know, and I expect that the prosecution is going to put out further evidence that would show, or that the jury could consider as blackmail, that would essentially go to.
And she could speak on the, I'll be sure, she could speak on the Heavy D, Andre Ferrer, Kim Porter. She could speak on that stuff because she was around during that era. And she has a lot to say. And that she gonna exaggerate some, but she can validate some stuff back in that era.
The RICO and things of that nature. But the defense is really honing in on those text messages to show, yes, she was a participant. Yes, it was willingly because of the nature of the text messages, what she was saying to him, how she was initiating and things like that.
Okay, we have more super chat questions coming in. Salis, thank you so much. Question for you, Serena. How does Cassie's long-term silence affect the strength of her claims now?
Another great question. And it's something that prosecutors deal with routinely with sex crimes victims, domestic violence victims. There is oftentimes a delayed outcry. Delayed outcry essentially just being time to tell somebody what happened, to come out and say what exactly went down. It is not at all uncommon for a domestic violence victim to not say something right away. Now, I don't know if that's something that's common knowledge to a jury, and so I think it would benefit the prosecution to bring an expert on to explain that, to say, you know, in cases such as this, it is very, very common for people not to come out, and specifically in cases where the abuser is so powerful and has so much, you know, power over a person, money, manipulation ability over a person, even physical abuse over that person as a threat. So it's not uncommon for that delay, but I am sure the defense will try to use that in their favor.
We have another super chat question from Sarah F. Sarah, thank you so much. This is a great question, one we've been talking about a lot, but Saf, I'll throw it to you. Why are there no cameras allowed in the courtroom?
It's not the only federal court.
Why are there no cameras allowed in the courtroom, Saf?
Why do people not know that by now?
Unfortunately, the law says that cameras are not allowed in federal court. So there we have it. Although we would love to be able to see this in real time, in the moment, sort of like we did in the Young Thug trial. That's just not the case here. Cameras are not allowed in a federal court.
Hey, Bobby,
so we have more updates from the live testimony of Cassandra Ventura because there are no cameras. We're reporting it in real time from what we're getting. Sean Combs' attorney, Miss Anna Esteveo, asks Cassandra Ventura, Mr. Combs wrote, "I'd be there right after my session. This was in June 2017. Do you remember arguments you were having at that time?" Ventura responds, not specifically. Esteveo says, "Here you say the game starts at 10 p.m., no breaking character to 8 a.m. There's a follow-up. Ventura says, "This was a game a friend of mine told me, a way to rekindle your romance." Esteveo says, "By doing something different in the bedroom." Ventura says, "It's a whole getting into character thing." Esteveo says, Mr. Combs says, "Let's get some outfits and go to the sex club." So Safa, again, goes to this idea of her being a willing participant in all of this, that she wasn't coerced. I mean, because it does become a question that it's very possible that while she agreed to it in the beginning, she could have been hiding her true feelings, or she wasn't able to fully express how she was feeling, or didn't know how to. But that's a question, right? Because it becomes a question, how much does Sean Combs have to know how she was feeling about these sexual episodes and her participation with escorts? There's evidence that she made it clear, and there's evidence that he was physically violent, but how much does he have to actually know she didn't want this? So, Saf, I'll throw it to you.
I always say, at the end of the day,
we know that
this is crazy.
Trust can be challenging.
Listen.
I want to participate in this. Then
listen. Oh my God. This is why I don't play games with people. If I said, at some point I was cool with it. I was cool with it. Until I wasn't cool with it no more. Just because I was cool with it for a period of time does not say I don't have the right to say I don't want to do that no more. So you could come up with 50 million emails, texts, love letters, and cards that I said, yeah, I can't wait till I get home and we gonna do whatever it is that you want to do. But at the minute I said, no, I am not a willing participant anymore. Let's hypothetically say I'm feeling good, I'm feeling myself, and I want to do it another time. I have the right to become a willing participant again. And if I decide after that one, oh, that was a little too rough for me, no, you just don't get it, you don't have the passion I need, I'm no longer a willing participant. So yes, at some point I was into it, but I'm not anymore. And I said no. Why is it so hard for people to understand? That's just like any other job. They hire you for a job. They think you're a good match. You work, you do what you do. You work, you think you work it out. They look at your performance. They decide, no, we don't want, it ain't working out. We changed our mind. Do that mean that at some point they wasn't into me? No, that just mean that they changed their mind. Period. These people are crazy to me. They are crazy to me.
The answer is no. If they are silent as to whether or not they want to participate, the answer is no. That is not consent. If the person says, no, I don't want
Silence.
to, that is not consent.
Says, here you say the game starts at 10 p.m., no breaking character to 8 a.m. There's a follow-up. Ventura says, this was a game a friend of mine told me, a way to rekindle your romance. Esteveo says, by doing something different in the bedroom. Ventura says, it's a whole getting into character thing. Esteveo says, Mr. Combs says, let's get some outfits and go to the sex club. So Safa, again, goes to this idea of her being a willing participant in all of this, that she wasn't coerced. I mean, because it does become a question that it's very possible that while she agreed to it in the beginning, she could have been hiding her true feelings, or she wasn't able to fully express how she was feeling, or didn't know how to. But that's a question, right? Because it becomes a question, how much does Sean Combs have to know how she was feeling about these sexual episodes and her participation with escorts? There's evidence that she made it clear, and there's evidence that he was physically violent, but how much does he have to actually know she didn't want this? So, Saf, I'll throw it to you.
I always say, at the end of the day, unless the person is saying, yes, I want to do this, yes, I want to participate in this, then the answer is no. If they are silent as to whether or not they want to participate, the answer is no. That is not consent. If the person says, no, I don't want to do this, that is not consent. And at any point in time, and people don't often realize this, is although there may have been a sexual relationship between the two, preliminarily or at the beginning for a certain amount of time, a person can withdraw their consent. They can change their mind, and they have the right to change their mind. So that's definitely going to be something here that the jury's going to want to pay attention to. And I do think that there was a point in time where Ms. Ventura was a participant of this because of her age, because of influence, and she may have had motives with respect to her career to participate in this. However, later down the line, as things became violent, she was no longer a willing participant. And that's what the prosecution is going to come behind the defense and say during their rebuttal and rehabilitation of Ms. Ventura.
Look, this is a complicated case. It's a complicated case. This is going to be a very interesting cross-examination to follow. We have been following it. But listen, we got to wrap things up. Serena Townsend, Safa Robinson-Ferrer, thank you so much for taking the time to come on, break down what is happening in court, answering our terrific questions from our viewers. Thank you both so much. And real quick, everybody, I also want to let everybody know, we're going to continue to do these lunchtime shows for you. We're going to continue to break down this testimony in real time. And one of the reasons we can do this and take your great questions and bring this content to you is because we get amazing support from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. Give you an idea about who we're talking about here. Morgan & Morgan, they secured a $6 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, $13 million for a wrongful auto death in Georgia, and another $6 million for a trucking accident in New York. And mind you, this was all after insurance offered their clients significantly less in each of these cases. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not just start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Because Morgan & Morgan, I'll tell you what, they make it so simple. You can start a claim.
Overwhelmed by your HSA? End the chaos. Head to HSA Store.
Sean Diddy Combs, his former girlfriend, R&B singer,
Cassie Ventura facing cross-examination today for the first time after 2 days on the stand in direct. This just moments ago, she asked the judge for a quick break during her cross.
Yeah, I'm out of juice,
all happening
y'all.
in federal court, so no cameras, but we do have our Kelly Craft. She's been covering this like no other. In Manhattan, outside the federal courthouse. Kelly, good morning to you. Fill us in on what has happened so far with the much anticipated cross of Cassie Ventura.
Well, hi there, Ted. Yes, earlier, Cassie did ask for a short break. She is back on the stand right now. But before we came back from the break, she was standing there waiting for everyone to make their way into the courtroom. And she was holding something in her hands, and it appeared to be a rosary. At least it was beads of some sort. And she was going along the beads as if you're saying the rosary. So she was standing there. She has on a black blazer that's kind of like a tuxedo-looking blazer, but she's holding up pretty well today, seems to be in good spirits, and has been kind of chuckling at times on the stand, even in an exchange between her and defense counsel when they were talking about how she was going to be reading the communication messages between her and Sean Combs. In regard to Sean Combs, before they came back from that break, he was conferring a lot with his defense counsel, but as soon as Cassie got back onto the witness stand, he was sitting back in his chair very relaxed, just hands clasped in front of him and listening. At one point, he did start conferring with his counsel when some communications were being brought up on the screen. We do have a bit of the testimony that we can put up for you on our screen right now. We can talk about it, what was said so far inside that courtroom. So, as I was mentioning what Cassie was wearing, this is what Combs is wearing. He has on a beige sweater, white collar, and gray pants. So he's kind of had the same kind of look every single day. His three sons and mother, they're in the courtroom. Combs tapped his chest when he made eye contact with them. And then Ventura, as I was mentioning, wearing a black tuxedo-style jacket with a light blouse, her hair tied back into a ponytail. And in regards to some of the testimony, let's take a look at that and what was said so far on the stand. So Ventura read loving emails between the couple from 2008. Combs said, "I'm a very lucky man. I love you. I miss you. I can't wait to hold you." And Ventura responded, "I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you so much. I'd fly wherever you needed me to, whenever. I love you." So that's an example of one of the things that was said today in court in regard to her testimony. We do have another one we can put up for you in which she was testifying that she wanted more time and attention from Combs. "I haven't talked to you at all. I know you can take 3 minutes out of your day to talk to me, and you don't even try. I'm really hurt by the way you deal with me. I don't need your money. I need some attention. I am thankful, but I can pay for these things myself." And Ted, I just walked from outside of the courthouse, and some of the other things that she was just testifying to are getting pretty graphic in nature, so I'm not going to be able to read everything on camera. But one of the things that's going to be important, and what defense counsel is picking up on, is an email. So when these emails or BlackBerry messages are being discussed, she is addressing them to Puffy, or Pop. That was the nickname that she had for him. And she told him that in order for me to be more open, I need to feel like you're my husband, that this is the only man who will have this aggressive sexual side of me. And this is where it gets to be important, because then she says in this email exchange that in the beginning, when we were in love and we did these freak-offs, she responded and she said, "It felt right." So that's what she says in that email. And defense counsel questioned her about that and what she was referring to. It was those freak-offs. And she said, "It felt right." She said, "We were in love." And then she said, "I'm afraid, though, that I'm becoming just one of your girlfriends in order for you to get your fantasies off." So they are going through all of these communications, Ted, between Sean Combs and Cassie, trying to establish consent, that she was a willing participant, and in fact, sending messages to him, one of which I'm not going to read, talking about the things that she wanted to be doing in these freak-offs.
Interesting. Yeah, and how would you describe the back and forth? Is it tense? Is it aggressive? I assume Tanya Garagos is doing it, a female defense attorney. How is this going? How would you describe it?
I think it's going well so far. It's not aggressive right now. It's not. And as I mentioned, there was a little bit of chuckle between the two of them right after she came back from that break, because how Cassie was reading the communications, I think Cassie was thinking maybe she needed to start from the top down, which seems logical, but it seems as if defense counsel was going from the bottom up and wanting her to read them, and Cassie responded, well, I just want to make sure that I'm reading them the right way. They kind of laughed back and forth, and the judge said, get to a question. So he wanted to cut off any sort of niceties that were occurring between the two of them, and he was like, get right to a question. But you know, Ted, it's the beginning. It's just the beginning of the cross, and she's going to be on the stand for quite some time. I anticipate that it will eventually get kind of aggressive.
Absolutely. All right, Kelly Traff, thank you. We'll let you get back into the courtroom. Kelly will be with us throughout the day with updates.
I'm ready for
between defense attorney Anna Estevao and
I'm ready for the sex guy.
As you could argue, is going to make
Jonathan.
or break both of these cases.
Oddi.
Kelly, thank you.
That's when Rico gonna really be in our face.
Take from Kelly's reporting there the initial stages of what is going to be a very long cross.
Well, Ted, I would say first and foremost, the witnesses' initials are CC. And I found that was very uplifting, because two words that are very credible now are credibility as well as character. We know that in the criminal courtroom that character really can't go at, so we have to go at another C word, which is the common scheme. And Cassie is here to show that Mr. P. Diddy had a common scheme of soliciting prostitution, of racketeering, of doing all of these things. However, her credibility is now on the line. So the defense wants to show that she's a violent person, that she's a drug user, that she's someone who could be a quote-unquote gold digger. Well, the prosecution is doing the exact same thing against Mr. P. Diddy by showing that he's someone who's aggressive. He can't control himself in the video where he's fighting the witness, and that he's someone that uses his money to establish the things that he wants. It's going to be up to the jury to be able to decide whether or not they can believe that this witness is actually credible based on the email that we just heard about, based on the text messages that we're going to hear about. So as we just discussed, this is very, very much in the infancy stages of the cross-examination. I'm sure, as she just indicated, that it's going to get a lot tougher for the witness.
Emergencies can strike at any time. That's why it's crucial to be prepared. Create a support system of people who can help you in a disaster. For people with disabilities and their families, it is important to consider individual needs to prepare for emergencies and disasters. Keep a contact list in your emergency kit or on your electronic devices. Designate 2 safe meeting places, one close to home and the other farther away. Also, if family members are separated, choose someone for everyone to call and report they are safe.
Okay, hold on.
The things these messages said, y'all, I was sitting there like, oh, this cannot be good. But then the other half of me, the part that's a woman first said, but hold up, because we got to talk about this. You guys, let's get into this. So much stuff happened in court, and you know your girl, this earrings are bothering me, but they look better in real life. But you know your girl had to deliver. Okay, the first thing, right? The first thing that we need to talk about is Cassie taking the stand. Now, what was the mood in there, okay? Did he turn around and look at me nice? Not nice, twice. Mark Agafilio, his hair looks better today, but it's still giving chicken little. Stuart.
She said he turned around and looked at her twice. Gary, he gonna make you,
kids came in late. Diddy came in. I will say one thing. Diddy came in a tan sweater. He had a butter yellow sweater. If y'all shopping out loud, you know the butter yellow I'm talking about. Today he came in a tan sweater. I do have to say, I think Diddy is a cool season. At the very least, I believe he is a bright, clear spring. He came in a tan sweater, and it really didn't do anything for him. It enhanced the discoloration. It enhanced the sallowness. That tan is not his color. He needs to move on because, again, it's giving Bram Stoker Dracula, but not in the way of you look trying to look and small. No, you just look sick, and that enhances the whole weirdo, pervy thing, right?
Yeah,
So
I
that's
gotta
the
put it
person.
like
The
this.
tan is not Diddy's color. He is a cool season. At the very least, maybe he is neutral, leaning to warm, but he is definitely, like maybe even a clear spring, but he needs to leave that tan alone, baby. You are not a muted autumn. You are not a deep autumn. Let me watch where I'm sitting. As you can see, the rain is gone, so y'all don't have to see
Oh,
me.
wow. Let's discharge it.
Getting off,
I
right?
gotta get some
took a bunch of
juice.
notes. I'm giving y'all a quick update. For those that don't want something longer, I'll be live later on tonight when I leave the courthouse.
Let's
Immediately
just
for a
listen,
long
y'all.
live outside the courthouse, first impressions, and then we'll do another live later on. I will say one thing. Shout out to Misa Hilton. I don't know what's going on, but I think Diddy, the people around Diddy are realizing this mofo is probably going to jail. Misa did an interview and said, well, guess what? I'm not here to support Diddy. I'm here to support my son. Hey, how are you? I'm here to support my son, Justin. And that's it. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. You cannot fault a mother's love. All we got to do is fault somebody standing by a bouncer, you know? Okay, so again, let's get into this, right? Listen, again, I'm just going through my notes really quick. Shocking testimony. Let me give our little teaser of what they had Cassie read up while her husband was in court. Again, I think this was to humiliate Cassie. I really do, because I don't think that it really showed, but it didn't. Cassie said, I'm thinking about, can I say this without getting demonetized? Let me try to walk around this. She said, I'm thinking about licking those D's from the balls to the T.I. and feeling it touch the back of my throat. This is what she was telling Diddy when she was emailing him about fantasizing about the freak off, all right? I have more texts. They are crazy, but then I'm also giving you the positions, right? Don't shadow ban me on YouTube. Said, hey, Tisa, thanks for the coverage. You go, girl. You're welcome. And actually, listen, who is this saying lies? Somebody said, why is Cassie laughing on the stand? Cassie, see, this is what I mean about, like, sometimes I believe that might be misinformation. Cassie was not laughing on the stand. When she first took the stand, she walked in, she was fitted, she was dressed in a power move. It looked like she had on some type of, like, Dior suit. I don't know. It was a Dior suit, a blue button up to the top, fitted button up to the top. She had on, the little pants skirt thing, right? She looked really, really good. She wasn't laughing on stand. When she came in, the prosecutor made like a joke or said something silly. This is before things had gotten heavy. This is before the prosecution. And Cassie was coming in with Alex, with her brother, and it was the very thing, okay? I know some people want to think you just come in and you glaring at the defense attorney, but
At Firestone Complete Auto Care, we believe that if you can't back the work, you shouldn't be doing it.
when I think you just come in and you glaring at the defense attorney, but the judge made like a light joke. Cassie politely laughed. So for people saying that Cassie is laughing on the stand, that's a gross exaggeration. Again, she wasn't laughing on the stand. The prosecutor said, the defense attorney said, you're very beautiful, very charming. And this is before they started getting the questions. She was like, well, thank you. And then the whole courtroom laughed, and Cassie just politely, again. But Cassie was not laughing on the stand. Anyway, y'all, listen, I also want to give a shout out to everybody. You guys, listen. Thank you. Oh, my God. Oopsie. Say hi, teacher, for all your hard work. Thank you. Let's just meet you. Enjoy CNN. Yo, I think next week I'm going to start networking. You might see a girl giving commentary. I see Nancy Grace's producers out here. You know I'm a big fan of Nancy Grace. I'm about to inbox her and see like, hello, Miss Grace. My name is Tisa. I'm CNN. I've been networking. Y'all don't care. Let me get to this, right? I'm like talking to y'all like, well, FaceTime. Like, I've been networking. I've been doing my own thing. Also, Scorpio Brown Sugar, thank you so much for the super chat. You guys, listen. Y'all know I came down there here. Y'all know that I did it on my own dime. you guys, let me just say thank you for the super chats. I love the super chats, and as long as I get a super chat, I don't care what's going on. I'm reading it on screen. Sorry, y'all. That is the price of admission. I gotta show love to the people that show me love, but now let me show love to the people that are actually in here. But thank you so much for helping me fund this, okay? Y'all always call me broke, and thank you for treating me like that and actually funding me. I appreciate all the support. So listen, here's what happened, right? She also said, I can't wait to have my legs cocked back, but time my head to feel that D tease my P raw. Yeah, and they made her read it out. And the funny thing is, when she was reading it out, I feel like Diddy had a smirk on his face. And when she was doing this out with nobody giggling, I feel like Diddy had a smirk on his face. Again, maybe it's just me, but this does seem like this is new trauma. It does seem like it is re-traumatizing. And I find that very, very odd. Okay, so listen, let me get to my notes real quick. Oh, God. Hold on, y'all. Let's get this note. I'm here. Okay. So the defense started off. Again, this was a shocking thing. I gotta stop. I gotta start from the beginning, okay? Because this is kind of shocking, very disturbing. You tell me. Let me tell y'all what happened, and y'all tell me in the comments. I'll hang out right and read the comments, what y'all really think, right? Listen. Mark Agnifilio stood up and he was begging the judge to let them ambush the defense, Cassie and other people on cross-examine. That's basically what he was doing, right? Marine Comey jumps up. She is ready to go. Yana, no, she is ready to go. Okay. Let's see. She's ready to go. Mark Agnifilio. It's like, yo, these verbiage, this vulgar stuff, it's language. That's what people use to express themselves. And, you know, he's trying to normalize it, right? He said, Your Honor, there's going to be text. The judge was like, did you know that these text messages were sexual? Mark says, yes, but it's part of the proof. The judge asks, listen, I'm telling you to redact the really, really nasty stuff. Are you going to comply?
Out of juice. I'll be back later. Bye.